Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome back to another Full Throttle Monday night on Live Sim Racing TV. That sentence can't get any more accurate than it is this week. From the home of the classiest infield in NASCAR, we're at the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, playing host to the third race of the Contender 12 round. And with that, we facilitate our second round of eliminations in this 2015 Real Sim Racing Chase for the Full Throttle Cup, presented by Garry Mercer Trucking. 85 laps and 226 miles are ahead of us as we welcome you inside the Inside Sim Racing TV broadcast tower. Evan Pasoko, Justin Rose now here with you for the call, joined by our RSR driver analyst, five-time Real Sim Racing winner, and self-proclaimed anonymous armadillo Brian Macklin, as well Cisco Scaramuza down on the pit lane, and our executive producer Laura Lawson in the TV trailer. Guys, we get set to go at it. First off, it's Talladega, so whenever we come to Talladega on a Monday night, it's exciting. We've seen Daytona this season, we've seen Talladega this season. However, Justin, tonight is no ordinary night because 11 guys come into this still with a mathematical chance at fighting for a championship through now and the next 4 races in this season. However, outside of tonight, 4 of those names aren't going to make it, and the only driver that is going to be able to enjoy this, and as we put it last week, enjoy the match of full contact chess, is Anthony DeBarro, who has won the first 2 races in this Contender 12 round. He is the only driver that is locked into tonight's contest.
Yes, he is, and by way of those 2 wins, he has the option to do what Joey Logano did last night in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and that's by sweeping the Contender round. And nobody here in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series has ever swept any round of the chase. So for that matter, tonight a whole bunch of storylines are ripe with us here. Like we just mentioned, Anthony DeBarro, he has the option to be the Joey Logano of this series tonight, along with the fact that there's a tie for 8th place in points. Rich Jett, Eric Brundage, your defending Cup champion, are tied in the 8th place position in points. So those 2 drivers really not necessarily safe by any means. Anything can happen, and what we've seen yesterday is indicative of tonight's possible action. Evan, I guarantee you it's going to be complete and utter chaos by the time the checker flag falls.
We've seen a lot of pink cars on track this month. This is our last Monday night, though, in the month of October. So RSR goes pink tonight. You'll see a lot of pink numbers, a lot of pink race cars out on the racetrack. There's going to be a $5 donation made on behalf of Real Sim Racing for every car that has a pink number or a pink paint scheme out there on track. And if it is one of those cars that is sporting some pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that ends up in Victory Lane, an additional $50 will be donated to the UNC Lindenberger Comprehensive Cancer Center. So a great cause in action tonight. Brian, I turn to you, though, as our driver analyst. There's a whole lot of ways you can approach Talladega. We talked to Anthony DeBarro as well about this after we talked to him in Victory Lane at Kansas. And, speaking on the fact that he is now in, and a lot of the time the big thing is once you get one guy in, we saw this before the chase even started. One team car is in, your objective is then to get the other team cars in. Talladega is the only racetrack where you can really dictate that kind of teamwork. We see teams work together on restarts at other tracks, but you can't do that like you can here at Talladega. What are these guys going to be doing? Guys that are behind the cut line, guys that are above the cut line, because first place, you think it might be safe, but anywhere you are in the field here tonight, you can find some problems.
Yeah, the reality to racing at Talladega is unless you are out of the draft, you're not safe. No matter where you're at on the track, if you're not in if you are in the draft, you're at risk of being caught up in the big one. And we're going to see the big one tonight. These guys are going to be racing really hard. They're going to be racing really aggressive, and you're going to see a couple of big wrecks here tonight. For the guys that are on the cut line or that are on the outside looking in, all they can do is just pray they avoid that big one. And for the RCO Boomtown cars, I certainly expect Anthony DeBarro to try to get behind the other 2 team cars and try to help them get to the front and try to keep them at the front at the end of the race. You may even see him play the role of a blocker as they get down to the late stages of this race to try to keep the other cars at bay. The problem with that is he's going to block, and those guys are going to try to go around him, and that could create a lot of issues on the track. So these guys are going to have to be really careful tonight. They're all 11 of these drivers that are still in this chase could end up getting eliminated tonight. You can't have a gap and hope that it's going to work out for you. Dwayne Vincent has 17 points. He's not safe. 17 points is not enough here. That's half the field. So if he finishes 31st, there's a very high chance that he would end up falling out of the chase. You just can't play it safe here at all.
And we take a look at the track facts for the Talladega Super Speedway. No doubt 2.66 miles in length, 4 turns. Turns 1 and 2 banked at 33 degrees, 3 and 4 banked at 32.4, 32.5 if you want to get really technical. The tri-oval as well, it's not considered a corner, but at 16.5 degrees, it's about steeper than half of the intermediate racetracks we go to on the season. 3 degrees down to back straightaway as well. That's what we're looking at tonight. Again, 85 laps, 226 miles start to finish. Weather consistent tonight at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. The track, though, hot at 104, and it is a very large field. And Cisco, we turn to you down on the pit lane. Last week at Kansas at an intermediate racetrack, there was a lot of body work that took over most of the action that you guys saw down there on the pit lane. Talladega, not known for being a racetrack that facilitate a lot of pit strategy, but considering the right circumstances, that could be a factor. But I think a lot of those guys keeping those sledgehammers nearby is like they did last week.
Yep, absolutely. The aerodynamic package here is so critical to your speed. You have to make sure if you get even the slightest kind of knock on the fender or something like that, it'll mess up your aerodynamics and you'll be doomed. So you got to make sure, keep that car clean, make sure keep the nose clean, and make sure when you pit, you got a drafting partner with you. And keep an eye on those tires because unlike last time we were here, those tires are actually starting to do something now.
So, Justin, let's look at this chase grid. We have Anthony DeBarro, as we aforementioned, 2 wins. He is good. Currently, there's a tie for the final transfer spot with Brundys and Jet. Brundys is going to get that tiebreaker at the moment. So, he has scored 8 out of the 12. Jet is 0 points below the cut line. So, the guys that are in, Greg Evans is up by 2. Thomas J. George up 7. You got Dan Murray, Comstock, Ward, and Vincent. As Brian mentioned, though, Dwayne Vincent, the driver that is furthest away from that cut line, 17 points. That's really not that comfortable here, but you look at the guys on the bottom, Cadell, Hurlo, Rollo, both of those RCO Boomtown machines at the bottom, just 12 and 13 points back respectively. That can be the difference of just choosing an incorrect lane in the final 2 laps of this race. It's very difficult to say that anybody's out of this, anybody's in this. Basically, every single driver needs to win the race. That's a good way to put yourself in a good spot.
That certainly is. You really have to look at the fact that these drivers have worked all year long, and it's really going to come down to what it basically boils down is a game of craps in Vegas. And these guys are going to have to play the hands just right and really see where these guys are going to end up when that checker flag does indeed fall, or in most cases, a caution flag in the last 5 or so laps here in the Talladega Super Speedway. And really, one of the big trouble spots on the racetrack is not only in the tri-oval, but on the Alabama Gang Super Stretch, which is more commonly known as the back straightaway. These guys are going to start moving 2, 3, and 4 wide once the green flag drops, and these guys really going to spread out and try to gain every advantage in the later stages of the race, and those will be your 2 trouble spots here on tonight's racetrack.
The drivers working through qualifying at the moment. Provisionally, Dwayne Vincent is the fastest driver. However, we have gone through 27 rounds on the 2015 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Garry Mercer Trucking season. And for 4 championship-worthy drivers, their fate is going to be determined by Talladega. Before we get this one rolling, we send things down now trackside to Honor America with our opening ceremonies into Jaden Berkey with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
From race control, Stephen Harriet wraps up the pre-race drivers briefing. With that, we get set to do battle in Talladega, Alabama. A reminder that the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series returns on Monday nights, and the RSR Outlaw Truck Series back on Wednesdays this November for another winter of stock car racing. You can visit realsimracing.com to register today. Get on track live this winter season with LSRTV. We take a look at the Garry Mercer Trucking Pole Award to Wayne Vincent. He got it with that 2-lap closed car, single car qualifying session. A 52.63 is enough to put the Havoline Ford Fusion on pole position. Outside to him, you'll find the number 9. No surprise here, Anthony DeBarro again with a front row start in this round of 12. Back one more, E.J. O'Rourke trying to build upon a weak finish 1 week ago. The 62 starts in third. Jose Gonzalez will roll off the outside in fourth to beat Mobile. That's Chevrolet outside on row 2. And Sean Bounty, great starting spot for the number 34, Justin. He'll be on the inside of row 3. That's P5.
Outside of row number 6 will be the number 14, the Monster Energy Chevrolet of David Comstock. And right behind him in the 7th spot, row number 4, the 42 is Scott Stenzel. He'll roll off 7th. The 94, your defending Cup champion. He's currently 8th in points. Needs a win to lock himself in. That's going to be Eric Brundys. And right behind him, completing the 5th row in the 9th spot, the 96 of Mitch Rollo. He needs a win to advance. Along with the 23 of Greg Evans in the I Can't Design Chevrolet. He needs a win to advance as well.
Starting in the 11th position, driver of the number 8 machine, that's Chad Cole. To his outside, making his return to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, is Corbin Hemstreet, starting 12th in the number 69. Starting in the 13th position is Christopher Herlow. He's looking for a win so he can advance on to the next round. Nelson Rivero is starting 14th, and Scott Simley rounds out your top 15.
The Durst Chevrolet is on the outside of row number 8, 16th position for the 91 of Steve Gottschalk. Brian Harvey going to put the number 66 off on the inside of the next row from at the back of the practice speeds to 17th in qualified. He'll be joined on that row to the outside of the number 21 Pink Chevrolet. That's Matt Lacrosse. Sean Casto, the 52 Speed Energy entry, will start this race at 19th, and the driver that was 19th on the practice charts will be in 20th. That's the number 1 machine, who right now sits in by 7 points above the cut line. It's Thomas J. George.
21st goes to the 2 of Rhett McBride, the 5 of Dan Murray. He's in the chase. He starts 22nd. 23rd goes to the 89 of Jeff Ward, and 11 of Jonathan Condell will be the 24th starter in this. Another chase driver. And the 84 of Jimmy North will round out your top 25. The 26 goes to the 53 of Nick Cohan. Kevin Linden will start 27th. The 28th spot goes to the 12 of Joey Jatina. The 43 at Doug Roth goes 29th, and the 30th spot belongs to the 31 of Eric Arnold.
6 additional drivers with a time in qualifying: Jake Higgins, Joe Dinsmore, Brendan Mercer, Joe LaPlaca, Paul Fugate, and Rich Jett through 36th position. 4 drivers scheduled to be on the grid via provisional starting positions. It'll be a 37th for Nick Silver, John Abbott in 38th, Tom Dryerling in 39th, and 40th is Douglas Wyatt. So one of the biggest fields we've seen in the second half of this 2015 campaign. That means that, at least in theory, these guys not afraid of this Talladega Superspeedway. We'll see what they say as this one goes on, because 85 laps from now, 4 names will be released from the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase grid, and 8 will move on to the final 8 in the final 2 rounds. Base guards down and away, and we're glad to have you with us on LSRTV. Dwayne Vincent, your control car, brings the field to the inside of the tri-oval. Green flag flies to the Talladega. 226 is green already. Now getting them up the full song down the turns number 1 and 2. The top drivers try to pull a gap. No doubt the inside, the place to be as they get these guys up to speed. The inside, it's still the 13 Vincent pulling away as he tries to work with E.J. O'Rourke, and Anthony DeBarro not wasting any time on the outside. He immediately jumps down to the bottom in 3rd.
Up through the 3rd gear, and now into 4th as they're finally up to full song. Now in the Alabama Gang Super Stretch is going to be the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, going to get the early lead with help from the 62 of E.J. O'Rourke. The meatball machine of Jose Gonzalez up on the high side, battle for that 2nd spot. Looking on the outside quarter panel of that 62 machine of O'Rourke, along with the 14 of Comstock working outside the 9 of Anthony DeBarro. Several guys mixing it up here in the early going. It's just the front 2 out by their lonesome as we complete lap number 1.
Jose Gonzalez started on the outside of the 2nd row. The outside lane behind him, no lack of horsepower. The number 14 of David Comstock. You got Brundys. You have the 23 of Greg Evans. If you want company 3 chase drivers, not that bad of a deal. Problem is the inside has a major advantage. The outside works, but they need X amount of cars up there to be able to do so. Right now it's 4 up top versus everybody else inside of the top 10, all the way through actually about 15th, 16th position on the bottom of the racetrack, and that gives that inside the advantage. Now that Renato Anthony he gets clear of the top side, so the first 3 cars down low cleared from the top lane, and that outside lane, if they want something to work, they're going to have to slowly start to pinch down on that bottom lane, try to get the side draft. You're not going to see a lot of that now. Still early at Talladega, but as these laps wear on, that gap between the inside and the outside lane will continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But for now, things relatively tame compared to what we saw in the practice session, Brian. Those guys were absolutely testing the limits of the cars, and maybe they found out the limits and they're trying not to push it too early here. Surprisingly, everybody looks relatively calm down the back straightaway for the 3rd time.
Yeah, it's early on in this race. They're not going to take too many chances this early on. They're going to take their time, and they're going to be very careful and very calculated in their moves. You don't want to take any chances, especially if you're a non-chaser like EJ or O'Rourke being up here in the 2nd position. You don't want to make a mistake that might actually end up hurting one of the chasers that are trying to advance into the next round. So you're going to see everybody play it pretty safe here, but I promise you, as the laps wind down and these chase drivers get more and more desperate, they're going to start making a lot more aggressive moves, they're going to take a lot more chances, and they're going to start working their way to the front. We're only 4 laps in, so they don't have any major rush. This is an 85 lap race. You're going to have to get through at least 2 pit stops before they're going to be able to bring this thing home. So they have plenty of time to find a way to get to the front and make their move and try to go after the win.
And we were not surprised to see the speed in the Anthony out on the front row again, Justin, but he dove right down to the bottom. He wasn't even sticking around there to see what was going on up top, but right now that's looking like a good move. One more driver bails from the outside lane. Now just 3 cars remain up top. At an 94 machine, the odd man out in that mix, 26 free with the 14. Actually checking up and slowing down on the outside is the Renati Ford of Eric Brundys. Check up on the inside, though, back in the pack, the 4 car of Scott Simley, 3 wide. Those guys got a little bit bottlenecked into turns 1 and 2. It looks like they're able to sort things out for the moment, but as laps go by, the outside gets fewer and fewer cars up there.
Everybody trying to sort themselves out here in the early going of the Talladega 226 here tonight on LSRTV. Got the 7 of Nelson Rivera up on the high side of the 4 machine of Scott Simley, who you just heard was a little bit scary going there 3 wide there through the middle, got shuffled through the middle and back towards the end of this lead draft pack. And in fact, there are 23 cars in this lead draft pack, and a battle for the lead up at the front as the 62 of O'Rourke going to jump outside the outside quarter panel of the 13 of Wayne Vincent, and don't know if he's going to have enough steam to get there as the 9 of Anthony Navarro is going to bring along the 34 of Bounty now on the back straight away as these guys really start to get hooked up. I don't know if there's enough cars in that outside line to really make it work here in the early going.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if the 62 knows something that we don't, but he went up top, dropped back right away. However, now working with Jose Gonzalez, the tap down the back straight away, they're able to make up 2-3 car lengths at the bottom into turns number 3 and 4. Up the banking they go, they lose speed, and as they come at a 4 down to 33 degrees of banking, they gain just a little bit more up top and try to get a little bit of a run going, but the inside still strong. Key for the inside is those guys on the bottom of the racetrack, they're not going to be full throttle, Brian. If you're a guy like the 8 of Chad Cole, the 94 of Brundys, who has just dropped down from the outside as well, now 3 cars remain up there with the addition of the 62 who popped up there. If you're on the inside, you're not going full throttle, you're constantly lifting off of that race car. It's the opposite of the freeway. If you're not making passes, here you're staying on the left.
Yeah, and the move that EJ made to jump up there, I'm not really surprised at that. He wasn't going anywhere on the inside line. He was just riding behind Dwayne, and he also saw that his teammate, David Comstock, is sitting out there on the outside line. He didn't have a lot of help. Again, EJ is not nothing to lose here for himself. He's here, and as we see Scott Stenzel on the 42 jumps up in front of him, he is here basically just to have fun and go for the win, and if he can help his teammates. I think that's why he jumped up there. Team cars lined up out there, so they're really starting to make that outside line work. It's not going to be very long before you're going to see them overtaking the lead.
They jump out, and if you're a guy like that 62, Justin of O'Rourke, wanted to split Dwayne Vincent, nobody going with him.
DeBarro gets the edge now coming into the Alabama gang. The racetrack right now, several cars. Doug Roth, I'm hearing, is into the wall. No caution on a speedway. He gets that car righted, and once again, albeit at a slower speed, nearly disaster for the front half of the field.
Yeah, that came from a 3-wide lap number 9 in turn 2. You'll take a look at the rate. Number 79. Roth ends up in the fence. That was the end of that one, and the 43 bounced off the wall. However, problem.
Outside, he's going to catch the lead at the stripe by about 1/100th of a second over Anthony DeBarro as these guys battle 2 by 2, about 11 rows deep now as they get on to the back straightaway.
And DeBarro still with that 1 car length, half car length advantage on the inside of the racetrack. Dwayne Vincent really didn't want to join the outside. He was trying to jump up there to slow the momentum of the number 62 car, Brian. However, when you go into the tri-oval, you'll see that there's 3 distinct lanes painted right now as these guys work inside of quarters 3 and 4. When you hit that tri-oval, a 4th lane comes out with that 3rd set of white hash marks. Because of that, Dwayne Vincent thinks he's going up to block the 2nd. Next thing you know, a lane opens up underneath him. The 9 car did not hesitate taking advantage of that. You must think that Anthony DeBarro, he was thinking about that the entire time. You don't just go down there on accident. He knew exactly what the 13 was doing, and he made the right move.
Yeah, I mean, this is a chess match, essentially. You do what your competitors are not doing. You have to make moves that work for you, and in this case, it worked out for his teammates because he's got teammates lined up 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. And it just put him in a position where he's leading the race. And while you're never safe here at Talladega, I would have to venture to say that being the leader is probably the safest place you could be. If there's anywhere that you'd want to be, I feel like you want to be the race leader. And he's doing a good job here, and he could play spoiler. Once again, he could be the Joey Logano here of the Full Throttle Cup Series and sweep the contender round and win all 3 races, as Dwayne Vincent actually got a big push from EJ down across the start-finish line. He led that lap. He was not able to get clear to the bottom, but he got a nice push from EJ. I'm not surprised you don't see EJ up here running at the front. He's one of the better restrictor plate drivers in this simulation, and he does such a great job at putting himself in the right spot. I certainly expect to see EJ be up here most of the night contending for the lead and maybe even be a contender for the win.
We had a nose at the start-finish line. This time it'll be enough to get clear to the question, though. Does the 13 take it? Does he stay up there and work with the number 62 machine? Well, more than enough time to get down. He'll stay up on the top side for the moment, so the 13 of Dwayne Vincent trying to bring that 62 along with him. But the outside, the 62 now going to cross over to the bottom of the racetrack, and EJ O'Rourke, 13 playing nice, and the 62, he's just using that to his advantage. He leaves the 13 out. The dry goes to the inside of the racetrack. Dwayne still leads it that time by, but now O'Rourke leads the outside. The 13 still first car up top.
O'Rourke going to lead the bottom line along with Vincent now working the eye line, bringing that train along as well. 2 wide from second on back for about 4, 5, 6, 7 rows as far as I can see down the back straightaways as they work now off into turn number 3. Vincent with the run on the outside. O'Rourke's going to pull away through turns 3 and 4 now onto the front straightaway into one part of this dog-legged front chute. And right now, O'Rourke and DeBarro get clear underneath the 13 of Vincent, bringing Sean Boundy with him. Mitch Rollo in the 96 also going to come with as the outside line starts to break up. The inside line looks like the place to be. And as I say that, battle for the lead. The 9 of Anthony DeBarro pulls up to the high side. He's trying to go for the lead once again, now out of turn 2.
And an entering place to do so as he jumps up on the entrance to quarter number 1, but a 9 car takes over the top side lead, and with the push from the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, not on the bumper, clear for a split second, but you see Sean Boundy, the 34, doing exactly what you want a second car in line to do, and that is push when the outside challenges, keep the engine cool when there's nobody there. However, the 62 got launched into 3 and 4, and it's going to take the 34 a minute to catch him. The 9, though, not hooked up at the 13. The inside going to be able to continue to play that defensive. But, guys, we went from having 4 cars up top to building an outside line. Now the top 16, 17 drivers within 9/10 of a second of each other. They're no longer giving each other the space that they were in those opening laps, albeit still just at lap number 16. These guys are slowly approaching their first swing of pit stops. They're trying to find help. They're trying to get the best place to do so as they go 3 wide for the race lead. First time it was Dwayne Vincent, and that time the 34 goes to the middle, and they're going to follow him through. O'Rourke on that bottom third lane drops now to 5th spot, and now 4 wide, now 3 wide. The 23 going to jump back up to the top side. Greg Evans in no man's land as he tried to go to the middle. The guys behind them, though, gave mercy to that 62 tucked in behind them, and just like that, it is now the number 34 machine leading the bottom. DeBarro still up top. Drag race to the stripe, a small edge to him.
It's more or less a tale of two cities right now in the early going as we put 16 laps into the books. We're on lap number 17, Boomtown Sim. 3 cars up at the front of the pack, along with several other of their drivers up inside the top 10 at the moment. Well, let's take a look towards their counterparts, Steel Horse Racing. Several of the drivers in the last draft pack, some 18 to 19 seconds off your leader, Anthony DeBarro in the number 9, who just went down to the bottom side. These guys trying to play it safe in the early going as these guys trying to avoid the big one that seemingly will inevitably happen if we were almost 4 wide here just a moment ago.
DeBarro gets the push from the 13 to Dwayne Vincent, drops down to the inside, and now leads the inside line across the start-finish line. 17 laps now in the books. A very small connection problem for the driver of the number 96 in Mitch Rollo, who scored in 5th position and is right now 13 points into tonight. Outside of that cut line, running in 5th position will do wonders for him. And now 3 wide, they just keep leaving guys out. This time, no help for Anthony DeBarro. You think that these guys didn't do that on purpose. They know that the 9's a threat to them. They want the win, and they split him. Can the 26 get clear as well? Gonzalez up into the outside wall. Tried to follow the 13 to Dwayne Vincent through, and now more 3 wide down to the apron. The 62 sideways, and down the apron he goes. Well off of the racetrack. He'll keep it out of the inside retaining wall, but E.J. O'Rourke is going to go well off of that lead draft as things take another major twist at lap 18. Now it is solely the number 34 of Sean Bounty in front, and now the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, who tried to leave the 9 hanging. Somehow, DeBarro ends up in 3rd, and it's the 13 Haviland Ford who's going way back on the top side. He'll jump in line before falling to B6. You'll take a look at the replay, and again now they try to leave the 34 out to dry.
Sean Castro had a heck of a moment out of turn number 2, and as we look back up towards the front of the field, Boomtown got 4 cars inside the top 5. The only difference is the 23 at Greg Evans from Steel Horse. He's got that outside line working with the 9 Anthony DeBarro, who now looks to the outside of his teammate Mitch Rollo, who needs a win. He's going to look to the inside as 3 wide now for the top 5 spots or so. And new leader at the stripe going to be the 34 of Sean Bounty with the 69 at Corbin Hemstreet in tow.
Brian, I know that you need friends to an extent to win a Talladega race, but I guess we're talking the fall one, not the spring one, because these guys, I haven't seen any 2 drivers stick together. They don't care if they have an opportunity. They're leaving you out because they want that number 1 spot. Again, because everybody's so close, you can just say that every single driver needs to win to move on. That's a good way to look at it, and you can see that's the mentality that they all want now as Vincent brings something back up on the top side.
Yeah, that's certainly the mentality these drivers are running with right now. We're only 20 laps into this 85-lap race, so I'm kind of surprised to see them running this aggressively this early on, but they're doing a great job at doing so. And Dwayne Vincent got a huge run off turn 4. He's going to come all the way through the trial and clear the race leader and lead that lap. Does he choose to go to the bottom? No, he's going to stay on the outside line for right now, but he got a huge run off turn 4 that propelled him past both of the RCO Boomtown cars on the inside and gave him the lead there. This has been a wild race so far, and we haven't even gotten to the end where these guys are really going to have to push. I'm really excited to see what they start doing once we get closer to the end of this race.
Take a look at some of the other names in this mix that we haven't said all that much. How about the number 69 of Corbin Hemstreet? Up to 2nd spot. He started this race in 12th. Greg Evans started in 10th. He's down there on the inside lane of the racetrack just behind him in 3rd. He's up 7 spots. Chad Cole's moving forward. Matt Lacrosse from 18th position is here. Is now Dwayne Vincent back to the middle. And those are 2 RCO Boomtown machines up top trying to clear him. They're going to find the problem, though, that Jose Gonzalez did last time, and that is they did not get clear into the corner. The help from the 42 of Scott Stenzel keeps the 13, the lead car up top. And now that 3rd lane probably not going to be a viable choice tonight. However, especially with two drivers, nothing compared to the inside, and a 96 car in the fence that time at a 2. A very close call, and both the 96 of Rolo, joined by the 9 of Navarro, they're forced to drop down to the inside lane and fall outside the top 10.
As there were several swaps for position in lanes. You got the 23 of Greg Evans from Steelhorse Racing now up on the high side, battling for that third spot alongside the 8 of Jack Cole, the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, 87 of Christopher Hurlow. Going to join the battle here for the top 5, and several drivers swapping positions that time by. Jack Cole moves the biggest on that last lap. He moved up plus 2 spots now up to 3rd, and it's a single car breakaway. 5 cars on the bottom side. Nearest challenger on the outside will be for 5th. Evans way up in the outside, almost into that outside fence, and onto the Alabama Gang super stretch we go. These guys all trying to get single file on the bottom. Things starting to settle down, it appears, as the field now works in turn 3.
For the first time in quite some time, the leaders single filed inside of the top 8 through turns 3 and 4. That won't last long as they try to regroup, but Sean Boundy through that 10-15 lap sector of melee is finding himself in front of the field from 5th position. He leads at Talladega. Across the start and finish line to take 24. Next thing you know, you're out of room. That 4th lane that becomes present in the tri-oval fights him again, and it's the aggressive driving from Him Street. Left side tires glued to that yellow line, finds the inside spot, and now the 34 up top side. Evans thought about going to the high side on him. They're going to decide that they'll work with him, and now just like that, 4 cars on the top side once again, and they fight for the race lead inside of the top 8 positions.
How about a name we have not heard in ages here on LSRTV? How about the Navy Nuke of Eric Arnold in the 31? Started 30th, now he's working his way, battling up inside the top 5 now. Gonna shake and see where he shakes out when he crosses the start-finish line this time by. Looks like it indeed will be 5th on the racetrack, challenging for 4th as he's now working with Greg Evans around the outside for that top 4 position as the Boomtown cars now on the bottom 1-2.
Somehow Sean Boundy going to get his way back to the race lead as he fell back on the high side. The push from the 23 gets him up top. You see those cars get real tight as they come off of quarter number 2. Way up the track goes the 69 of Him Street. He finds his partner right now in Chad Cole, but not before the outside line. Goodbye. How about Eric Arnold? You just mentioned fighting inside the top 10, top 5. How about second spot? Around 27 cars to gain 28 positions. He's in second right now to just that 23 machine in front of him. Greg Evans in a very similar boat that many of these drivers are. He enters tonight just 2 points above the cut line, beating Eric Brunnies, beating Rich Jett. He's in front of them all right now. He's leading the race. This is exactly what he wants to do. Well, Brian, not a whole lot of guys have held the race lead for long tonight.
Yeah, you're not going to see them hold the lead for a very long time unless they choose to stay single file like we've seen here in the last few laps. As actually, I say that, and they're starting to shuffle around. They're 3 wide for the lead. Eric Arnold went up the middle, and then he also had a challenge from behind him, but they decided to go back down to 2 wide. Sean Boundy looked for a second to make it 3. He decided better of it, as now he's going for the lead. Eric Arnold, like you said, started all the way back in the 30th position, and as he comes off turn number 4, he has an opportunity to lead here at Talladega. He's got a good run as they work through the tri-oval. Is it going to happen this time by? Not going to be the case. Greg Evans is going to hold on, but this has been a classic Talladega race where you shuffle around and different guys lead and you don't see one guy dominate. You're not going to see that like you would at an intermediate track or at a short track where one guy goes out there and leads a bunch of laps. You're going to see them shuffle around. You're going to see a mess of lead changes tonight. We've already seen several, and we haven't even got to the end of the race. Again, I can't stress how dramatic this is going to get when we get closer to the end.
In the push from the 31 up on the top side, it's enough to get Eric Arnold cleared, but he does not take advantage of it. He'll drop down in line. Stick with the number 34. They're all going to move around the number 43 machine. That's Doug Roth. Now 2 laps to the negative. Still working with the damage that he received after getting into the outside wall in turn 2 earlier on in this race. No drivers besides him were affected by that. He slowed down and obviously lost the lead draft and has since lost 2 additional laps now. 2 laps off of the race lead as this race continues. Still green flag through lap number 28. The 69 struggling with the handling though on the outside of turn number 2 every single time. Look at the 31. Eric Arnold with the crossover. 23 moves up 5 feet. And the 31 splits 3 cars to the bottom, and now Sean Bounty to the middle lane of the racetrack, and just like that, Greg Evans goodbye, tops on and going backwards quickly in 3 and 4.
3 wide, almost 4 wide at times now on a turn number 4. Everybody gets settled 2 wide. It's going to be Eric Arnold, the Navy Nuke, all alone up at the front of the pack, and have Sean Bounty challenge to his outside across the stripe. New leader at the stripe, going to be the 34. Sean Bounty going to take the lead, bringing along the 42 with Scott Stenzel with him on the high side as Eric Arnold touches the apron a little bit and gets that car corrected, but he's going to yield a little bit of ground to the front 2 of Bounty and Stenzel up on the high side. Now look at the 13 of Dwayne Vincent now back up in the top 5. He's going to shove the 42 with Stenzel as the 34 Bounty looks to go up and block on the back straightaway. Working into turn number 3, it's going to be Bounty on the inside. Stenzel up on the high side. Stenzel, no drafting help, but he uses that side draft to stay there. Going to see if he can challenge for the lead as Bounty now goes up to the high side.
And the 42 knows a thing or two about working around the Talladega Superspeedway. A great run so far for Scott Stenzel as the 34 went topside to 31 of Eric Arnold. Resumes the lead of that inside lane. It'll put him in second across the start-finish line, Cisco. A lot of these guys now 30 laps in on these tires. They're getting tight off the corner right there, the 42, all the way to the fence. Everybody's swinging up 5-6 feet, almost an entire lane out of 2. That would tell me that these guys are struggling with the handling on their cars. What's the chatter going on? Because pit stop's not all that far away as Bounty is left out to dry.
Yeah, it's mainly just people trying to find their way, maybe starting to think where they want to be. Ooh, a little close there with the 31 and the 69, but people want to make sure they're on that inside line for when they come down pit road. Don't want to be stuck on the outside, but yeah, it takes about 15-20 laps. These cars start to get really tight. Those tires start to wear. So, you have to be careful, and I'm sure we'll see a bunch of 4-tire strategies, but maybe someone, maybe thinking, I ran a little easier, might take 2. Might try and get up there in the front. So, we'll have to see. All crew chiefs down on pit road being very secretive right now. They don't want anyone knowing anything about it.
Eric Arnold leads the bottom and Sean Bounty leads the outside. We're a third of the way through the Talladega 226 as a part of the Contender 12 round race 3 of 3. And the action has been ever so present since the drop of the green flag. Pit stops coming up shortly. With that, we step away for a moment. We'll go LSRTV non-stop as you keep a look at the action. This time, it's Eric Arnold through the Earnhardt sucker hole in the middle. Start finish line top side. The 34 is your race leader. Back to Talladega in a moment.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Back live at the Talladega Superspeedway, and the caution flag is out, and it is the number 43 of Doug Roth turned around. Your lap machine just talked about how he had lost 2 laps of the race leaders. We'll get a look at the LSRTV replay. It looks like that 43 got into the fence, and we were talking about these race cars getting tight, Brian Backlund. The 10 goes wide off the corner because that car just not sticking to the bottom, as Cisco said, after those first 15 laps. And as the 43 got in the fence at the same time, it put John Abbott and Doug Roth in a collision course. Those 2 drivers get together, and the number 36, Brian, as well, Rich Jett, he gets a little piece of contact, and it looks like the 94 of Brundy's gets the inside wall, as well as 2 of those chase competitors dove every which way they could to try to avoid it.
Yeah, that was a scary moment for those guys back there, and the sad part about it is these guys elected to stay this far away from the main pack because they didn't want to get caught up in anything that might mess up their chances to move on to the next round of the chase. And here, this happened right in front of them, and they were about 30 seconds off the lead pack. So that just goes to show you you're not really safe anywhere on this track. And now, after 34 laps, we're seeing these guys come down the pit road. Cisco, I believe we're going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, these leaders coming down to the pit lane. Dwayne Vincent, the first car down.
All right, as they come down pit road, the main thing on the radios, everyone complaining tight, 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 tight. So Wedge going to come out of a couple of these cars, maybe make a track bar adjustment. We'll have to see. But the call right now, I've heard 4 tires. Corbin Hemstreet came over the radio and said, I just need something to make this thing freaking turn. So Corbin not too happy with the car, but 4 tires, they're away. It looks like Nelson Rivera going to be the first off pit road.
And taking a look at the Verizon Chevrolet, I believe the 7 overshot his stall. He was at the opposite end of the pit road that you were taking a look at. That would have been that he comes out, and he'll probably come back around the next time through. If he was hoping for the bonus point, Tom Dryerling stays out and would take that. However, Corbin Hemstreet in the number 69 machine looked a little bit close on speed. He is good, though, after tightening that one, but we were just talking during the commercial break, Cisco, about these guys working at just about lap 35, where we sit right now, yet to come down pit road. That put them 8 laps away from the halfway point. Were some of these guys thinking about stretching this one on a one-stop strategy? And if so, now the caution flag, this pretty much means that they're not going to be able to go there from the end, and now they kind of have to do a 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, that caution kind of came at the wrong time for these guys. If it would have been more towards around the 43, 45 sort of laps, you might have been able to see it if a couple people, like, just, stayed in the back, maybe rode about 80% throttle. They maybe could have saved enough fuel, but as it stands right now, we can't make it. We need either another caution or something, they'll have to come back down green flag. So we'll have to see what these guys plan on.
Another driver that looked like he had a very good time, Matt Lacrosse, showing with an 11.5. He, another one of the drivers that had some problems into his pit stall, overshot it, ended up in a fence, backed it up. He was right by that 7 Rivera, who we looked at, who as well had problems. 21 had to shift it into reverse, Justin. He went with 2 tires, got back out on the racetrack. It is Talladega. We talk about so much of this race is out of the driver's control. Because of that, the things that you can control, you can't make mistakes like that on.
That said, you really have to kind of make your own luck on this racetrack, and the 36 of Rich Jett coming in tied for 8th place in points. Tiebreaker gives him 9th. He was involved in that incident with the 10 of John Abbott after he collected the 43 of Doug Roth. So one of your chase cars, the Godzilla Chevrolet of Rich Jett, your Daytona winner here at the beginning of the season, he's got a long way to go. He's already 1 lap down, and he's going to have a long night ahead of him if he wants to make the chase.
So a caution flag will transition us into the final 50 laps at Talladega, and with that, we now step away for the first caution flag of our own. Dwayne Vincent, your leader. You're watching a Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Garry Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Domino's TYJ Racing League is proud to announce we are now taking driver applications for our $2,500 purse inaugural season going green January 2016. At Domino's TYJ Racing League, you get paid cash, not gift cards or die casts. Cold, hard cash. You get paid for finishing 1st through 20th in our championship and 1st through 3rd plus a lucky dog bonus in all of our 20 races, plus other cash bonuses. You're going to like the way you look. All the way to the bank. I guarantee it. Purse amount approximate, paid cash or iRacing bucks. Drivers carry less than $20. Report unsafe driving to local authorities. Apply today at Domino'sTYJRacing.com to see if you qualify for our league.
While lions are notorious for their voracious appetites, they spend a great deal of time feeding other creatures. In fact, lions will take great care to ensure there's plenty to go around. As you can see, they keep giving with utter ferocity. Bravo, lions, and bon appetit. Do good, be a lion.
Back live at the virtual Talladega Super Speedway, we still work under the first caution flag in tonight's Talladega 226. You're watching the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the Full Throttle Cup. It is round number 6, race 3 of 3 in the Contender 12 round. 4 drivers in less than now 50 laps going to be eliminated from this 2015 championship. Dwayne Vincent up 17 spots. He's running in first at the moment. The best possible scenario at this time. Greg Evans running good in second. Sean Bounty, Corbin Hemstreet, Christopher Hurlow through the top 5 right now. And a couple of guys, Cisco, including some of our chase guys we've been taking a look at that got some small pieces of damage in that last incident, are trying to get them fixed while staying up front.
Yeah, Rich Jett probably was the worst out of our chasers right now. He took a big hit there, had about a minute still left to repair on that car. So they're trying to get that all done, but he's going to be a little slower. We talked about that aero package. Any little damage is going to hurt. Mitch Rollo caught the outside wall a little bit. Only a little minor scuff. He's going to be okay. Eric Brundy's also caught the inside wall. Was able to keep that thing going straight. That was only 5 seconds optional, but little Nixon Banks and like just notches in the car. You never know, one of those could hurt your race. But a couple of the cars actually came down to top off, so they might be trying, with a caution, maybe go in, take less fuel or something like that. Maybe jump out ahead of some of these guys. So that's a strategy. Maybe try and get ahead on the next pit stop.
Well, Brian, where do we go from here? We've got our first caution. They claim cautions breed cautions. That was a long green flag run. We're just a couple of laps shy of the halfway point.
Yeah, I think you're going to start seeing these guys get a lot more aggressive. You're going to see some of these guys have been hanging in the back. They're running out of time now. They're going to have to start making their moves. You're going to see a lot more action now.
The pace car will drop down with 47 laps to go and 38 laps in the books as the 13 machine who led us to the first green flag on the evening by sitting on pole position, once again in the control car spot on the inside of the front row. Green flag flies and back and away we go to 13. Try to time that just a little bit with Sean Bounty. Pulls way out in front enough for the 23 of Greg Evans to slot in from second spot up top to second on the inside lane of the racetrack. And just like that, the top 6-7 drivers single file down to turns 1 and 2.
Everybody trying to get down to that bottom side. The 91 of Steve Gottschalk, lone car up on the high side. Is Scott Simley going to work to the bottom now as top 10, top 12 cars now all going to goes single file on the bottom. One car now ducks out of line. Going to be the 14 Monster Energy Chevrolet of David Comstock. Looking to the outside of the 87 of Christopher Hurlow in the DoYourPart.org Chevrolet. Looking up towards the number 8 of Chad Cole. Up in front of Hurlow is the 14 of Comstock, as everybody trying to side draft each other and gain the advantage there on the inside line as it starts to pull away, as Lacrosse now passes the 14 of Comstock. As we cross the stripe, it's going to be the top 10 cars, all single file.
The 14 was the only outlier in that, and he drops down to the inside, so the 14 going to be right in front of Steve Gottschalk and 8-9. Those drivers trying to find each other. They do so as a top 10 single file out. Now it's a game of chicken. Who jumps out of line first, and when they do so, who's going to go with them? You can jump at a line and get left and fall back to, right now the lead pack still sits 24 cars deep. You can fall all the way back there, or you jump at a line, you get 2-3 guys to go with you. The outside lane ends up there just like that. The outside lane, non-existent just earlier in this race, and once they hit lap 10, 12 or so, that outside lane formed with about 11, 12 cars up top within one lap. All it takes is one person to go, one person to agree with them, and the outside lane can form. But again, if there's two people working together, the guy in front of you who you're not working with jumps up, you're not going with him, and he'll be going to the back. And as these guys slowly start to get back up to full speed, now they're going to be in a position to try to make some moves. The 60 out of Him Street, he looks like he was thinking about it that time at a 2. Drops back in line though for the time being. Still single file all the way through the top 18 cars in this race.
Yeah, that until you get to the 31 of Eric Arnold, the Navy Nuke. Looking to the outside of the Meatball Company Chevrolet SS of Jose Gonzalez. Eric Arnold has not run, I do believe, in almost 2 years in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Eric Arnold, one of the guys we regularly see up front on the plate tracks in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Doing good tonight, come all the way up to about the lead for about a lap or so earlier before that caution flag. Now settles back in line in the 15th spot as most everybody still single file on the racetrack.
And you go on board with Brendan Mercer at the moment and take a look at what he sees out the windshield of the number 29 machine at the moment, running right now 26th position, and he is at the back of this long single-file freight train of cars. The last car actually on the lead lap, still in that group of single file, back 2.7 seconds off the top spot right now, and you can see that line go almost out of eye shot as they already now exit turn number 4. Everybody single file. This is what we saw early, Brian, and this is what we expected to see early. We know there's a lot on the line. At the moment, if you're outside the top 15, regardless of knowing the math, you could be outside the top 15 and still be in. But if you're outside the top 15, outside the top 10, if you're not winning the race, basically, you want to keep moving forward. But they can't just go at it now. We saw things get ramped up, and ironically enough, the caution flag comes from contact back in the pack. But, I mean, those guys were really starting to get at each other's throats. Now, we see what we saw earlier, and that is these guys just trying to log some laps and get closer to 85.
Yeah, I have to say I'm actually really surprised at this move by all these drivers. I really thought that after having such a long green flag run, you'd see these guys get a little bit more aggressive. Obviously, this race has the feel for a lot of long green flag runs, so for those guys at the back of the pack that have been hanging out, which the Steel Horse drivers have been back there all race long, I'm just surprised that they're hanging back still. They're about 6.5 seconds back right now, and they're not doing anything to try to catch up. So this is kind of puzzling to me. If this thing stays green, I don't know if they're going to be sitting in a very good spot.
And as we cross the halfway point in today's race, it's now time for our iRacing Midway Race Break, presented to you by iRacing.com, the leader in motorsport simulations and the official sim racing partner of NASCAR. Your pole sitter has found his way back to the top spot since we went back green, continues to sit there. It's a 13 of Dwayne Vincent. Greg Evans is second at the moment. Sean Bounty rides in the number 3 spot just behind him. Corbin Hemstreet from 12th to 4th behind them. Chad Cole, the driver of the number 8 machine at Chevy, inside of the top 5.
6 goes to the 87 of Christopher Hurlow. 21, Matt Lacrosse rides 7th. The 14 of David Comstock, he'll ride 8th. And on 9th, the 91, the Nerfinator, Steve Gottschalk. And rounding out your top 10 will be the 48 Lowe's Chevrolet of Kevin Linden.
Sitting in the 11th position is the number 4, Scott Simley. Brian Harvey is sitting in 12th. Nick Silver is sitting 13th. Jose Gonzalez is 14th. And rounding out the top 15 is Jimmy North.
Nelson Rivera runs 16th at the Whoop. 117th is Eric Brundy's in the number 94 White Castle Ford. 18th spot to the Navy Nuke of Eric Arnold. E.J. O'Rourke up front earlier, now back in 19th. And Douglas Wyatt from 40th rounds out your top 20.
21st going to go to the 79 at Joseph LaPlaca, the 49 at Jake Higgins. He'll ride 22nd. 23rd goes to the 29 of Brendan Mercer. 24th, the 82 of Tom Driley. And riding out the top 25, the 52 of Sean Casto.
Sitting in the 26th position is Paul Fugate. He is running right now at the very end of this front pack. Sitting 27th and 6.9 seconds back right now is Jonathan Cadell. He's followed by the number 9 of Anthony DeBarro in 28th. 29th is Thomas George. And rounding out the top 30 is Dan Murray.
Brett McBride right now is 31st position for the driver that is running right now from 21st at the drop of the race here. 32nd is Nicholas Cohan. Jeff Ward is 33rd. 34th is Mitch Rollo. Joe Dinsmore through 35th position. Joey Giutina, last driver on the lead lap. We have one driver, one lap down. That is Rich Jett. Was tied for the cutoff spot into this race. Right now, one lap down and damaged. It is not looking good for the Godzilla Chevy. Scott Stenzel is 3 laps down and having some connection problems trying to get back into the sim. He is, but he lost 3 laps in that exchange. John Abbott, 39th, is out. Doug Roth as well, and 40th is behind the wall. And we talk about the damage on Rich Jett. Well, another driver that we were talking about in that regard, and somebody that was running up front a little bit earlier tonight, Cisco. We turn to you. Eric Arnold started this race in 30th, got to the top 5 within the opening 20 laps of this race. At one point was in 2nd, however that race car is damaged, and he has as well some minor connection problems, and now he's way back in 23rd.
Yeah, a bunch of drivers came over the radio when the 31 was up there. He jumped to the high side and started falling back and kind of started thinking he could lead a couple lines there. Drivers were jumping on the radio saying, get this guy out of here, he's too slow. So he's got a little damage on the left rear, and he's got a little damage on the left front. I think he got hit in the back, maybe by Corbin Hemstreet on the restart, I thought I saw, but we'll have to take a look back at it. But 31 just trying to feel it out right now to the next caution, trying to make sure that thing doesn't, temps don't blow up or anything. So he's just kind of pacing right now towards the back of that pack and making sure he doesn't take anyone else out.
So, Brian, as a driver, I think you had alluded to earlier, you want to get something going at this point, but everybody remains single file. Again, we were talking to pit strategy earlier on in this race. Maybe a small shot that these guys were going to try to do it on one stop because of that caution flag, though. These guys are all still one pit stop away from being able to fight for the race lead. Is this single file going to go all the way to that round of pit stops, or again, is it just a matter of time? Because if they start fighting, if we get to green flag pit stops, they're going to have to single file out to get down the pit road. You see the 36 car get lapped, so Rich Jett now 2 laps to the negative. And everybody right now at least cooperating inside the top 10, the top 15. A little bit going on towards the back of the pack. The 84 of Jimmy North up on the outside of the racetrack. He, E.J. O'Rourke, and the 79 of Joseph LaPlaca are trying something. That could be the start of the outside as Brendan Mercer hops on. That's 4 cars, but everybody inside the top 10 not really looking at them.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of this riding around strategy here at Talladega or Daytona. I've ran a lot of races at those 2 tracks. I've won a lot of races and I've lost a lot of races here at this racetrack, and every time that I've lost one has been because I decided to be conservative and I've decided to stay in the back, and when it was time to go, I didn't have enough time, and I ended up getting caught up in a wreck or just not being able to go anywhere because the lanes were blocked. I just feel like the sooner you get to the front, the better, and it really surprises me that these guys have stayed single file and have not really done anything to try to start working their way to the front, especially the chase contenders. There's a lot of guys that are at the front right now. You got Dwayne Vincent, Greg Evans, you've got Christopher Hurlow, David Comstock. There's chase drivers in the top 10, so these other guys have to be worried about where they're at in the points, and if you're way too far behind and you don't have the time to make those positions up, there's a good chance you're going to eliminate yourself. So I just don't like this strategy. I think they need to be making their moves now.
Eric Brundy's Justin, and as well, Rich Jett, the 2 drivers that were tied for 8th spot into tonight. The tiebreaker went to the 94 of Brundy's, where he doesn't have much of advantage. Although he runs in front of Rich Jett, that sounds like good news. Well, Jett's now 2 laps to the negative in 37, and Brundy's is back at 18. Even a guy like Dwayne Vincent, who's 17 points above the cut line, can't afford to be running in 18th. Nonetheless, for a driver that is back there right on the bubble into this race.
Yeah, tough luck for the driver of that Godzilla Chevrolet. Gonna need a miracle. He's basically gonna need the big one to happen and wipe out a lot of the guys in front of him in points. That does include the 94 of Eric Grundy's, the defending Cup Series champion. And Grundy's just riding along at the tail end of this pack. Although things are starting to heat up. The outside line starting to come in, being led by the 25 of Nick Silver, who's working outside the 48 of Kevin Linden. He got around the 4 of Scott Simley the last time by, and now got his sights set on the 91 of Steve Gottschalk and that Nerf Chevrolet, as these guys all starting to work that outside line, mainly led by Nick Silver, but he's got the 84 of Jimmy North in tow, along with the 62 of E.J. O'Rourke.
And if you didn't see, again, it was Brundys and Jet were both involved in an incident at a quarter number 2, in which Doug Roth found the fence with the damaged race car. John Abbott tight coming out of the corner, back and back. They made contact, and Brundys and Jet both were hit. They got sent down the racetrack, not totaled, but those cars were damaged, and that is what is affecting their running order at the moment. You talk about the outside led right now by the number 25 of Nick Silver. Up top side, he's being pushed by Jimmy North, scored in 10th position that last time by. We'll take one more look at that replay if you're just tuning in. The problem comes at a turn at number 2. Earlier in this race, the drivers you're looking for are the 36 of Jet, and as well your defending series champion, as we've mentioned, the 94 of Brundys. Those are the two guys that when we showed you our chase grid were tied for 8th and 9th. That's bad news for them. That is great news for Jonathan Cadell, Christopher Hurlow, and Mitch Rollo, though.
Yeah, these drivers starting to work their way towards the front. You got Rollo and Anthony Amaro in the last pack there, working with the Steel Horse guys, trying to just save fuel, kind of be conservative, trying to go that route. Although the 87 of Christopher Hurlow, he's up at the front of the pack at the tail end of the 7 car now breakaway. I do believe at the front of the pack is these guys just trying to do whatever they can. Separate strategies being played for both Boomtown cars in contention to race their way into the eliminator round of the chase.
The double file continues, and it slowly begins to close into the top 10, but at the moment the guys inside of the top 6, first 6 drivers pulling away. They have half a second of gap between 6th and 7th spot. Hurlow, the last driver in that group. Matt Lacrosse, the first driver in that secondary pack in 7th position. Chad Cole a little bit sideways that time in 1 and 2. Able to gather things up. It slows Hurlow down just a little bit for the top 6. Good for the moment. Dwayne Vincent, though, Cisco, hearing that the driver of the 13 machine, he wants to hang on to the lead, because if he's not leading the race, I don't think he has any friends out there.
No, he definitely doesn't. He lost his teammate John Ebb in that wreck we saw earlier in the replay. So right now, he's kind of out there. He doesn't have any friends. He's in second in the points. Everyone behind him in the points wants him to end up in the back. So when push comes to shove, he might be out there. He may have no friends.
Things getting excited again just outside of the top 10. The outside lane is still Nick Silver, Jimmy North, the 62 of E.J. O'Rourke still up there as well. Nobody's going with them, though. I mean, they've got 4 or 5 cars at one point. They slowly drop down to 3. Problems for the 8 car of Chad Cole. A big connection issue for the driver running in 6th position. That car is just completely blinked out on the screen. Momentarily reappeared in the middle of that secondary pack. And with Chad Cole not on the track at the moment, he may be currently falling out of the sim. We don't see him. He's running in 6th position. That's not good news for Chad Cole. It's good news for every single chaser that was sitting behind him, because they're all going to gain 1 point. But Chad Cole receiving a throughput fall to an unacceptable level, has dropped connection from the sim.
Tough luck for the driver of the 8 car, worked his way up and in contention. Chad Cole, one of the better drivers in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, dating back to its beginning, as these guys a little bit further back in the second pack starting to really mix it up to 25. Nick Silver still up on the high side, gets a little bit of help occasionally from the 14 of David Comstock, who's now worked himself up to the second car in this second pack. Right behind the 21 of Matt Lacrosse is the 84, Jimmy North.
Caution.
In the wall, 3 wide in turn number 4. Jimmy North almost caused disaster for the second pack.
Well, the caution flag will fly with problems. Mitch Rollo, the number 96, heavily damaged. And that looks like it will be it for Mitch Rollo, who came into tonight 13 points below the cut. He's into the fence. The caution flag is out, and Not an incident that you want to see here, guys. We'll pull up the LSRTV replay, but it's Mitch Rollo going topside with his teammate and Anthony DeBarro. We had seen these Boomtown Sim Machines, Justin, do this many times tonight. Instead of working with the guy on the bottom, they have each other, they have speed, they try to knock another car off their list. Back in 29th spot, the 52 of Sean Casto pushes up the hill. They don't actually make contact, although they got awfully close, and then it's actually the 96 that comes down into the 52. Again, turn 2, very, very tight conditions on those race cars. That's a chase driver colliding with a non-chaser, and the short end of the straw goes to the 96 of Mitch Rollo. Sean Casto in the fence as well, but for Mitch Rollo, needing not much less than a top 5 or a win tonight, that is going to essentially eliminate him from 2015 championship contention.
Yes, it will. He's going to need a series of pit stops, especially if he wants to get it fixed. But as I say that, Mitch is behind the wall now. The 96 car done for the night as the leaders now hit pit road. Francisco, the leader's coming to you.
Yeah, I heard over the radio a couple teams making sure they put as little fuel in here. They just need enough to make it to the end, because remember, we don't have green-white checkers here in iRacing, so they're just going to put in enough fuel to make it. They don't have to worry about going the extra distance. But Mitch Rollo already headed to his hauler, hopped in the car. He's out of the track already, was not happy at all with the number 52. So maybe 2 tires? No, not seeing it. It's going to be 4 tire stops. Oh, wait, no. 2 tires, I believe, for Linden. And the 4 of Scott Simley, both HPS cars coming out ahead of the leaders.
And both of them, they come down pit road. It's going to be 2 tires for the number 48. The drag race at the start-finish line was a close one. It was a 7.8 second stop for Scott Simley, the 4 as well, taking the 2 tires. But as they exit the pit lane, the Sim, going to say that Dwayne Vincent was your race leader at the scoring loop, coming off of the pit lane. So 2 teammates tried the strategy. They'll end up 2 and 3, but Dwayne Vincent, the 4 tires and the fuel to the end, is going to be able to race his way off of the pit lane from having that number 1 pit stall he got from qualifying on pole position to put himself back into the race lead, and he'll bring us back to the green flag inside of now 30 laps to go. We're 2/3 of the way home in the Talladega 226. And as we work under the second caution flag of the evening, we'll step away and do some business one more time here on LSRTV. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the 2015 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Garry Mercer Trucking. Chase for the Full Throttle Cup. It's Dwayne Vincent, first car off of the pit lane. He leads us at Daytona. Back in a moment as we close in inside of 30 laps to go.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
While lions are notorious for their voracious appetites, they spend a great deal of time feeding other creatures. In fact, lions will take great care to ensure there's plenty to go around. As you can see, they keep giving with utter ferocity. Bravo, lions, and bon appetit. Do good. Be a lion.
We're back live at the Talladega Super Speedway. We work under our second caution flag on the night, and Justin Rose, now you just whispered in my ear here under the commercial break. We're in the go zone now, less than 25 laps to go. These guys are fueled up through lap number 85. It's now or never for a lot of these chase drivers.
We got two drivers that are provisionally done for the chase and basically for the night. The 96 of Mitch Rollo on the hook, on the hauler. Basically, he is done, so he is out of the chase in the contender round. He will not advance to the eliminator round next week at Martinsville. And along with the 36 of Rich Jet, he's on the outside looking in, not mathematically eliminated just yet. But it's going to take a miracle for the 36 Godzilla Chevrolet to work his way in. Well, how about the other two drivers that were listed on the outside looking in? That's going to be the 87 of Christopher Hurlow. He's running right now 8th on the racetrack as they run at the moment. Going to roll off again from the A spot. And how about the 11 of Jonathan Cadell? He was 10th in points entering tonight, so 2 spots away from locking himself into the eliminator round. Well, he's got a long way to go in a short time to get there. Rides 24th on the restart. He's got certainly a lot of ground to make up, Evan. And basically, as we get inside the go zone, anything can happen. And if you're in that middle of the pack, that's kind of the bullseye zone. That's where you want to get away from. So this restart really going to be where you need to get away from once the green flag drops.
Brian, it's going to be 24 laps to go when we go back green. How far back can you win this race from?
You can win from pretty much anywhere on this track, but you cannot wait around like we've seen a lot of these guys at the back of the pack doing. You've got to go now. 24 laps to go. You don't have time to wait.
The pace car get a dive down, and it's a smart move to get out of the way. A lot of guys at the back of the pack, they've been hanging out back there out of trouble. It's now or never. Going to be 24 laps to go at Talladega, and Dwayne Vincent 3 for 3 tonight on being the control car. Green flag flies, and back and away we go. He'll lead us across the start-finish line. Problem is, he got quite the jump on Scott Simley. Outside, though, no support from the third car up top. Falling back on that, the 87 machine of Hurlow absolutely caught sleeping. That destroyed the outside line.
As the leaders now get ready to get single file for the moment. Can't really say that. At the front of the pack, the 48 of Kevin Linden with help from the 23 I Can't Design Chevrolet of Greg Evans. Gonna battle for the lead. It's dead heat on the Alabama gang. Super stretch as Vincent now ekes out the early lead with the 4 of Scott Simley as he's working that K&N Toyota on the bottom, bringing along the Meatball Company Chevrolet of Jose Gonzalez, and along comes the Boomtown train. 3 cars, the 34 of Sean Bounty, the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet, and the 87 of Christopher Hurlow. It's most of these guys on the bottom as he's outside line really starting to form now with the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, the 14 of David Comstock. Thinks about going outside and riding with the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, and he's got a shot out of a cannon almost as he's going around the 87 of Hurlow with no drafting help, and side drafting the 69 at Corbin Hemstreet on the back straightaway.
Those drivers with damage begin to fall off of the pace. It's Anthony DeBarro in the number 9 machine, who ironically enough not going to be able to do what Joey Logano did. He was in 22nd spot the last time by the start-finish line, slowed, and obviously with that damage back with the likes of the damage number 5 of Dan Murray and company, they begin to quickly fall off for the leaders, 2 seconds plus on back. But the outside lane, it's alive and well. It's the 48 of Kevin Linden. So it's been a chase driver who's been playing spoiler. Last week it was DeBarro. This week, can it be a non-chaser? Race lead for Kevin Linden from 37th position to the race lead, but not before Greg Evans can say something about that. Goodbye. Dekes him out on the top side, takes the bottom.
Steel Horse racing to the point. Greg Evans with Dwayne Vincent in tow, along with the 4 Scott Simley. The inside line making its move. Corbin Hemstreet really giving a shot to the 48 Lowe Chevrolet of Kevin Linden up on the high side, working through turns 3 and 4. The inside line going to roll that advantage, but once we come down the hill on the short chute coming into the tri-oval, we're going to see that outside lane really start to move along as we come out of the tri-oval. The leader will be at the stripe, going to be the 48 of Kevin Linden, once again making that lead change.
exactly what we expected to see now. These guys too wide pretty much through this entire pack, and if they're not too wide, they're working on getting there very quickly. The 48 jumps to the outside, puts a little bit of a block on the 69. Again, those cars getting tight as they come off the 2. The push isn't enough this time for Kevin Linden. He gets clear, he drops down. Yes, sir, the low Chevy to the top spot in 3 and 4. Not all the way to the bottom, though. He thought about sticking up top, blocking the outside. He commits to the inside, and now Hemstreet going to push it side by side for the race lead. They go 3 wide, back and a back, but a drag race for the top spot. 69 up top, that's Corbin Hemstreet trying to make amends for being eliminated from this chase in the Challenger 16 round. Wants a couple of trips to victory lane. He's in a good spot. He leads the outside.
He's in that good spot, but he's going to need a little more help as the outside lane really starts to get broken up as the 34 Sean Bounty falls off the back decklet of the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. The 87 of Christopher Hurlow falls even further rears from Sean Bounty. This outside line really starting to get broken up as the 23 of Greg Evans now moves to the outside along with the 69 of Hemstreet. Going to be a battle for the lead out of 4. Kevin Linden has it, and Greg Evans going to roll the outside as he goes way high out of 4. Almost a big scatter as Hemstreet thought about going up through the middle to try to take the lead. Not going to have it happen as now Evans going to try to get the sucker hole treatment. Hemstreet once again thinks better of it. Linden with the lead still into turn number 1.
These cars went back green with 24 laps to go, and that time by less than now 20 laps remain. Brian, we talked about the handling on these cars. In recent years, not a big conversation at Talladega. However, recently on the sim, the dynamic racetracks at all, it is a factor. We have seen these cars get tight as the run progresses. With 24 to go and these guys last pitted, that's putting us in a spot where they're going to be coming to the checkered flag when their cars are handling their absolute worst.
Yeah, we actually have a wreck in the back. David Comstock got turned around and got sent up into the outside wall. Big wreck and huge chase implications for David Comstock. Oh, man, that was a big one.
And he had some choice words over the radio immediately. The Monster Energy Chevrolet will not refire, and it looks like the engine is gone. Joseph LaPlaca over the radio claiming the responsibility for the incident. Nonetheless, David Comstock, 10 points above the cut line, wrecked out of this race, all but officially done in his quest for a championship. 79 machine where the contact comes from. You'll take a look at the replay. Joseph LaPlaca pushing, gets a little bit on the left rear. It spins the 14 out, and with 2 wide behind them, gets nailed by Jimmy North. E.J. O'Rourke involved in that accident also. Outside of what causes that incident, though, Justin, David Comstock may not be fighting for a championship into the final 8. This looks like this may be the final nail in his coffin after he came into tonight as one of the better off drivers with the point gap.
Indeed, he was approximately 10 points to the good, so basically he has to be somewhere in the top 15 to guarantee him, but that's not going to happen. He's going to be on the hook. He's going to need some miracle work as it is in Francisco. I believe you have an update from the Boomtown camp.
Yeah, right now is we're looking to see who's going to come down pit road. The team that's not going to come down pit road, though, Boomtown electing to fake it, but they're going to stay out. Meanwhile, first car to come down pit road, that's the 79 of Joseph LaPlaca, was involved in that wreck before. Following him, it's the, I believe it's 25 of Nick Silver. I believe he tagged the wall a little bit during the race, but he's going to get right side tires here. Maybe get a little extra fuel, doesn't have to worry about it. No, he's going to take 4 tires. So he's worried about a little bit of grip there. LaPlaca also going to take 4 tires. The 45 of Fugate also in. 79 just going to lose out to the 25 on pit road, but a bunch of these cars taking 4, thinking the grip will help them jump through the pack.
With Mitch Rollo finishing this race at about 38th spot, David Comstock right now is 34th. So if you knock Rollo out of this race, Rich Jett is doing pretty off. If Rich Jett can finish 10 spots in front of David Comstock, then Comstock would have to pass one more guy. However, with the problems that a lot of those guys in the cut line have had, Brundys, Jett, Rollo, and other guys, including the 11 of Cadell, who really isn't running all that good in his own right now, still just in 21st position, that may not be it for the 14 of David Comstock. Mathematically, it is extremely close. But the biggest thing that 14 is going to hate about this, Brian, not only did you get caught up in an incident, second time we've seen this tonight, an incident involving an on-chase driver getting into you, ending your night, possibly ending your season. No intention at all, but it's part of racing out there with our 11 drivers that are locked in, and as well these 31 other guys that are still out there on the racetrack. But for Comstock now, he can't walk away at the moment. He can't leave the sim knowing that he's out. He has to sit here, watch the results, and hope that they fall in a way that allows him to maybe squeak through, but he has absolutely no control over that, and as a race car driver, the only thing you ask for is control.
Yeah, auto racing is one of the few sports where non-playoff contenders and non-championship contenders continue to be a part of the action once the playoffs actually begin, and that was the situation that David Comstock was faced with right there. A non-chaser got into him, albeit it was accidental, nothing intentional, but a non-chaser got into him and turned him around, and now because of that, he's on the outside, like you said, sitting here waiting to see where the rest of these guys finish. It's not looking good for him. The only thing he's got going in his favor is there's two other championship contenders that are also down here, so he's got a couple of guys that he's not going to have to worry about being able to beat him. Now he's just going to need the rest of these championship contenders to either have a bad finish or get caught up in a wreck or something to that nature to help him continue to advance on into the next round.
We take a look back down at the pit lane in Cisco. This, I guess, the art, if you want to call it, of racing at these plate tracks. We no longer have the two-car tandem that used to be in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, that used to be on the service, but you still need help. And what we have seen tonight, what we saw in the opening laps of this race, at about between lap 15 and 20, we got double-digit lead changes every handful of laps because there were guys constantly changing who they were going with. So it's a dance, but nobody's really dancing with the same person like when the dance started than when they do at the end of the evening. Who's talking with who at this point, and how has that changed from when we began this race now 70 laps ago?
Well, I went down to the pit of the 13, Dwayne Vincent, and I asked him, you lost your teammate. Who are you going to be working with down there? And he said, well, actually, Greg Evans came over the radio and said, hey, you know what? Me and my teammates, we're going to help you out. So 13 to Dwayne Vincent looking maybe to be another kind of factor here for Steel Horse, going to try and help them out. But he's got a few friends, and right now our leader, Kevin Linden, his teammate, Scott Simley's in 6th right now, and he's got another teammate, Jose Gonzalez, in 8th. So a bunch of team cars as well as the Boomtown cars up there all trying to work together.
And it's an interesting dynamic, Justin, because you have a team full of non-chase drivers, a team full of chase drivers. They're all going to be working at each other. And again, it's the same point that we made about Comstock being in that incident. When we got down to this Contender 12 round, we didn't take the other 28 cars out of the field. When DeBarro wins 2 races, we don't take him out either. Those guys have an equal right to fight for the win and give you hell for the win if they want to. Now, again, you don't want to mess up a chase guy's night by any means, because for those that have ran these 27 races, much like our chase competitors have, they know how hard it is to get to this point. So there's a level of mutual respect amongst the drivers, but they're still wanting to win the race. It still pays points. It's still a win in real sim racing. A lot of these guys at these plate tracks, their best opportunity to do so.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, the best of the best that this sim has to offer, and really, anything can happen, and that's what we just seen. Joseph LaPlaca makes one minor mistake and ends up ruining a a driver that's done very well all season long, and then to get this far into the chase and have it happen and potentially be on the outside looking in, not going to be where you want, especially considering that David Comstock provisionally is looking like he's on the outside looking in.
We've got a bunch of guys back at the pack trying to get things sorted out, trying to find some partners, and at this point, especially for those that are damaged back in the pack, they're just trying to find somebody that'll stay with them. In fact, try to find a couple of guys that'll work with you, but will volunteer to push you so that they're behind you. You need every single point you can get. It was as close as it has ever been all chase long into tonight, and it got closer as some of the guys back have problems, some of the front runners have problems. This is still far from decided. The pace car is going to drop down. It'll be a restart with 14 laps to go. For the first time not Dwayne Vincent. Will bring us back to the green flag. Kevin Linden's low Chevrolet on the accelerator. Green flag flies. 14 laps to go at Talladega, the 23. He's got to wait to drop down and change lines. He then does so. Greg Evans slots into second. No problem for him, and that sets up Corbin Hemstreet to be the lead car topside. Forrest Hindley thinks about dropping down. Doesn't do it, though. Sticks up top with him for the moment, and now I think both of those guys get to concede and drop down.
As the top 5, top 6 cars get single file on the back straightaway, the next car in line, out of line, that is going to be the 26 of Jose Gonzalez, bringing along the 66 of Brian Harvey. The 2 Boomtown cars just passing them, and those 2 cars that were just on the outside now getting single file as we're working inside of 15 to go. These drivers all trying to get themselves into position. Kent, Boundy, and Hurlow get themselves into contention for the win. Hurlow needs to win if he wants to put himself into the Eliminator 8 at the end of the night. That said, Kevin Linden is still out front. Got a whole rear-view mirror full of that number 23 I Can't Challenge Chevrolet. The Steel Horse Racing entry of Greg Evans along with the 13 Haviland Ford of Dwayne Vincent, along with the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. Those 4 cars very tight. The 69 of Corbin Hemstreet starting to fall off the rear as the 21 of Matt Lacrosse goes way high on the back straightaway. Problems appearing for the number 21.
All the way out to the outside wall, and with that he has a big arc into the corner. He's going to be able to drop down behind the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, stay in front of the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet, puts him in 4th. Things were very spread out, though, on that restart. In fact, the most spread out restart we've seen all night. Last run, we had the top 20 drivers within the 2nd to 20th position right now, a gap of 2.2 seconds plus. So not everybody on the 8 ball with that restart, Brian. That single files everybody out. We're not going to be single file for the next 12 laps, but it means that by the time we get doubled up, there's that many more laps gone, and that much more aggressive those guys are going to have to get something going. Again, now you get to the final 25 laps, you're like, okay, we're really starting to run out of time, but a caution like that takes a good percentage out of what was left in this race. Now you're really out of time.
Yeah, it is amazing to me that these guys have waited so long in the back, and yes, they got stretched out on the restart, but they have not. They're pretty much caught up at this point, and they still have not made any moves to the outside to try to start doing anything. And I just don't know that they have enough time to do anything at this point. I feel like they're too far behind. They don't have enough laps left, and they're putting themselves in a bad spot with 10 laps to go. When they get back around to the line, they're just running out of time. And we actually have a wreck in the middle of the pack. No caution yet, but I'm trying to see what happened back there. Several cars off the pace. Looks like everybody's all straight.
And it looks like the number 1 of Thomas J. George. It's the number 1 Snap Auto machine. 7 points above the cut line. He gets caught up in an incident in which Nicholas Cohan gets in to the number 49 machine. After the 49 pinching him down, he pushes up, gets into Jake Higgins. Thomas J. George, who we were talking about was not having a night that he needed, got into that incident. The 11 almost involved. They were 4 wide trying to snake through, and Thomas J. George now is damaged. He is being forced down to the pit lane.
And as the replay going to be shown side by side, they got the 21 of Matt Lacrosse way high out of turn number 2 on the Alabama Gang super stretch. Once again, these guys getting very tight out of turn number 2. Gonna be the trouble spot as we get closer and closer to the checkered flag. We are coming around to 9 laps to go, and caution flag on the speedway.
And it's trouble down the back straightaway. It looks like everybody slows. A couple of cars back off at a pace. Hearing Tom Dryerly may be the car that we're taking a look at. The caution flag is out. And trying to see where this incident begins. The 82 is involved, but the 11 guys in this accident as well. So you have Thomas J. George, 7 points above the cut line in the number 1 machine, involved in that accident. He's forced to pit road. And now the 11 machine of Jonathan Cadell, 7 points below the cut line at that moment in 21st spot. He's probably in because of all of the problems. He's involved in the accident as the 82 gets into him. It is a huge hit for Tom Dryerling. He gets the brunt of that impact with the 11 car now damaged as well. And the chase contenders continue to drop like flies into the closing laps here at Talladega. Add another chase driver to the list of those guys that are hurt. And they just need to make it 10 more laps. Just limp that thing across the start-finish line.
could we see a repeat of what Kevin Harvick was able to do last night? A lot of controversy with the driver. That number 4 Budweiser Chevrolet took out a lot of cars in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Talladega yesterday. And can somebody that is in the chase at this moment, who's looking on the outside because of a damaged race car, can they do the same thing that Kevin Harvick did, arguably, and lock themselves into the chase by causing some melee? Because once we go green, the next flag will indeed end the race.
And nobody coming down to the pit lane because track position, absolutely everything, Brian. We've been talking about it all night long. There is still that major group that you're talking about that has not moved forward. They continue to sit back, but for the most part, things have really melded good, because you have Dwayne Vincent, 3rd position, started from the pole. Jose Gonzalez is 5th, who started from 4th, and in 9th you have Sean Bounty in 5th. Everybody else inside the top 10 started no better than 10th position. Your race leader started back in 27th. From this point on, though, you're not going to be able to make up, I don't think, 20 more spots unless we see a big incident. What you have now is what you get. You got to make it work.
Yeah, they're pretty much at a point now where they've waited too long. All these cautions have come out, and for guys like Jeff Ward and Dan Murray, these guys that hung around in the back, it was a good strategy to avoid the wrecks, but now they're inside 10 to go. They're going to go back green with only really one shot to get up there, because if another caution comes out, they're not going to go back green. So I feel like they're in a safe spot to move on into the next round for the chase, but that happened at the expense of guys like David Comstock and Rich Jett and Mitch Rollo. They're in a better position because those 3 are sitting on the outside right now, just waiting and watching what's going to happen here. So they got really lucky with that. But again, I'm just not a fan of this layback and wait for things to happen strategy. I just feel like you need to put yourself in a position. That's why Kevin Linden, who started in the 27th position, is leading this race right now. That's why we see Greg Evans and Dwayne Vincent, who've been up front all night long. That's why they're still there with a shot to win, because they put themselves in that position and they stayed there the whole race. And now those guys have a more realistic shot at winning than the guys that have stayed in the back all day.
8 laps away and then less for 4 drivers to have their season come to a close as far as their hopes for a 2015 championship. And then after tonight, Martinsville Speedway in 1 week's time to kick off the Eliminator 8 in a 2015 RSR chase for the Full Throttle Cup presented by Garry Mercer Trucking. 4 races to go on the calendar outside of this one, but before we go to that, eliminations still have to be made, and fates are yet to be determined. So with that, we step away for one final time, and we'll bring you back for the final restart at Talladega that will determine the 8 drivers that will be joining themselves in the Eliminator 8 round and continue their quest for a 2015 title. You're watching the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series Chase for the Full Throttle Cup, presented by Garry Mercer Trucking. Kevin Linden, the Lowe's Chevrolet, your race leader. We work lap number 7 to 9, and we'll be with inside of 5 laps to go, back for the restart.
Truex in the outside, contact made. 56 slides it into 4. Who's going to be at the stripe? Dead even, give it to Ryan Truex. Truex is your winner over Tandy.
Monza is a very historic track. It's been around since the 20s, and it's gone through several permutations since then. we're also bringing forward a number of
Back live at the Talladega Superspeedway, Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, and Brian Macklin with you inside the Inside Sim Racing TV broadcast tower. Cisco Scaramuza down on the pit lane, and our executive producer Laura Lawson putting the button for you guys down to the end of this one. And now this restart going to be coming up that is going to basically end this race. There's no overtime. There's no green-white checkers. These guys set these cars up to make it 85 laps. That's all they'll need to do, Justin. Final question is, do we get to that under green? We'll find out. This is the final time the pace car is going to get down and away. This ends here.
It will end here, and as for the drivers that are in the chase, if you're a guy like Christopher Hurlow, you need to go to the front and you need to make a mad dash starting right now. The American Childhood Cancer Association pace car getting ready to dive to the safety of pit road. Kevin Linden and Greg Evans going to be the cars up at the front of the field as the pace car now makes that hard left-hand turn on the pit road field. Now, in the hands of Kevin Linden, that Lowe's Chevrolet gets ready. He will be the control car on this American Ethanol restart as the American Ethanol green flag waves in the air. 5-lap dash to the finish. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Greg Evans not getting the restart he needs, but he's going to be blocked by the 48 of Kevin Linden. The 13 of Dwayne Vincent now going to move up to the inside. Thought about making it 3 wide for the lead going into turn 1. Matt Lacrosse, Corbin History, everybody trying to get the positions they need right now as Dwayne Vincent now looks to the high side on the back straightaway.
Greg Evans waited and waited. He saw the back end of the 48. The view on that replay is moving LSRTV side by side. Vincent goes top side, doesn't have any help, and we talked about how that 13 of Dwayne Vincent didn't have any friends out there, goes to the outside, and back he goes. He can't fall 17 spots. He only has 17 to the good into tonight. Meanwhile, the 21 machine bumps up to second. It's the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet in third. Your closest chase driver, the number 23 machine of Greg Evans, in on the cut line by 2 points into tonight. He's probably good in fourth, now in third position. But you got to take a look. It doesn't matter where anybody else is. If a chase driver wins this race, they're into the next round. That time by, even less laps remain. Just 4 laps left on the clock, and things spreading out towards the front of the field as everybody, they trying to get something going, Brian, but in doing so, they're leaving too many guys out to dry that they can't gain any momentum as a group.
Yeah, and the bigger problem is you're not making any friends, so when you decide you want to make that move, you're going to be left out to dry just like you did to the other guys. So this is the wrong time to be making enemies. You want to make friends at this point so you have somebody that's willing to go with you when you jump out there.
The 23 back to the top side. Greg Evans wants to lead the outside charge. Matt Lacrosse, different ideas. Who does the 13 go with? He'll go top side. It's the 21 in the middle of the racetrack. Can he get help? Before the 23 of Greg Evans and the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, clear him up top side. The outside, that third lane, they stall out a little bit in 1 and 2. Trying to challenge contact, that's it! Up the hill goes the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. A big accident down the back straightaway. Dwayne Vincent's number 13 is involved in the wreck as that car rolls to a stop. Kevin Linden will win this race. The Talladega 226 to be his. They'll take 2 to go this time by. Greg Evans should advance with a second place finish, but Dwayne Vincent is caught up in the accident. The 13 machine visibly and audibly not happy over the radio, and you can understand why. Was running in a top spot on the outside lane, and the problem comes when the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet tries to go to the middle, Brian. I don't think he saw that 21 there. He just cut right across the nose of Matt Lacrosse. It comes up, and Dwayne Vincent gets the biggest hip check you'll ever see into the outside wall. That car severely tore up. I don't even know if that engine's going to make it to the end. This drops him to outside the top 30, and he can go from battling for the win and being roughly 20 plus points above the cut line to out if he cannot make it around.
Yeah, that was almost, it looked like a case of bumper hook for me. I saw the 69 try to duck underneath the 48 off turn 2. The 48 got defensive and tried to block him, and they made a little bit of contact, and the 69 got shot up into the 21, which of course then caused the big wreck that took out Dwayne Vincent and a few others there. Just a big moment for these chase drivers, and it's amazing how many of the chase contenders have had issues here tonight. And it makes the drama so much more, because you've got Thomas George and David Comstock, Mitch Rollo, Rich Jett, now Dwayne Vincent joining the party as guys that have ran so strong all year long, and now they're sitting here looking at possibly missing the next round.
And you're absolutely right. I take a look at the wheel movement from that 69, and he had that thing to the left the whole time. But that's a freak thing that you see here in these restrictor plate races, Justin. It's something that these guys know are a possibility when they race hard, when they push, especially in these closing laps. And wrong place at the wrong time for Dwayne Vincent, who you can understand is still livid on the radio, falling at least at the moment back into 28th position. And again, that car still may not make it around to the checkered flag.
It may not, but it's really going to come out as the white and yellow flags have been displayed. Checker and yellow displayed next time around for your leader, Kevin Linden. All he has to do is go a half a lap, and he will take a victory away from the chase car. And that's going to be the 23, Greg Evans, who's going to run second at the finish tonight. And I got to tell you, a heartbreak abound all throughout the field. Several chase drivers ending up on the hook for the night. And really, the one driver you really need to keep an eye on is Dwayne Vincent. Will that motor expire by the time he makes it around to the start-finish line? Time will only tell, but it's really anybody's guess who's going to move on to the Eliminator 8.
Dwayne Vincent just now exits turn 4, yet to take the white flag. He just needs to get every single point that he can. And again, he would lose a total of 17 points up. If it was Brundys and Jett right there, even with a right now 28th place finish, he'd be done. But again, because so many people have had problems, it's the same story for David Comstock. Nobody knows their fate still to this point, besides maybe Greg Evans, who's sitting pretty good right now in second, and Anthony DeBarro, who has gone back-to-back in the previous 2 races of this round. However, for the final time, they'll go through the tri-oval this time at just 80 miles an hour. It'll be a checker and a yellow simultaneously. The Talladega 226. How about the low Chevy 27th to 1st? Kevin Linden across the start-finish line. Checkered flag flies, and the winner at Talladega, the driver of the 48. Greg Evans comes home in second. Nelson Rivera in third. We'll be able to talk to the podium finishers, and you'll take a look once again. Dwayne Vincent trying to see what that 13 machine can do. He's down the back straightaway. He's shutting the engine off. It's turned 90 degrees to the right. If he doesn't make it around, I don't think he'll lose any more spots. Meanwhile, Thomas J. George will come up shy of the start-finish line. The 1 car can't make it all the way through. That means Vincent could gain 1 spot if he drives past him. The 1 car is about 20 feet short of it.
Waiting to see if Dwayne Vincent can make it all the way back around to the checker. He may not be allowed to finish within the certain time frame, and looks like a heavily damaged Haviland Ford not gonna quite make it.
And the clock counts down, and I think Thomas J. George, seeing that he's not going to make it, so the 1 car going to go the rest of the way across the start-finish line. 79's giving Dwayne Vincent a push, and you know, everything they're doing is against the rules, but they're trying to do whatever they can, and now the additional clock that's added on across the start-finish line has expired. The 13 machine will officially be scored 1 lap down in 28th position. He will not make it to the start-finish line in time to finish on the lead lap. We'll talk with Kevin Linden, Greg Evans, and Nelson Rivera. The 48 celebrates in the front straightaway at Talladega. Most importantly, we await official word from the RSR Race Control on the 8 drivers that will be advancing to the Eliminator 8. Post-race from Talladega coming up in just a moment. Stay locked. You're watching LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks and terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
While lions are notorious for their voracious appetites, they spend a great deal of time feeding other creatures. In fact, lions will take great care to ensure there's plenty to go around. As you can see, they keep giving with utter ferocity. Bravo, lions, and bon appetit. Do good, be a lion.
But here comes Greg Ahutu into Canada corner for the final time. Just 2 corners left to go before he finally makes himself a triumphant return back to victory lane. He has led 38 laps of this event here today, and Greg Ahutu once again is a winner. Greg Ahutu will work himself through the Cobra Parabolica. He will claim his 46th victory in iRacing.com World Championship competition. Greg Ahutu, for the 2nd race in a row, reigns supreme.
The one thing that I think is the most important is we've been racing this Ground Championship Series for quite some time now, a very long time even at that, and he is the only driver to have ever won a professional road race at Watkins Glen.
But there is nothing that could crack that finish #1 Team Redline driver. Greg Ahutu works himself out the final corner, and just as he did in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, in 2015, Ahutu once again wins at Watkins Glen.
Ahutu will come across the line and takes the win for round 7 here at Virginia International Raceway.
Here he comes now, just 3 corners left to go, into Brooklands for the final time, into Luffield for the final time. Never ever say that Greg Ahutu is beaten, because he just comes back bigger, he comes back stronger. He wins round #9 of the World Championship Series, 49th win of his career. If you're the world's greatest racing driver, you can do it with your statements on the road courses. Do it when it matters. Out of the final corner for the final time, number 50 for Greg Ahutu, out of the final corner. At the top of the broadcast, we said if Ahutu could win here today, he could well cement himself as the championship favourite. Greg Ahutu, the #1 machine, back to victory lane.
The official word is in, and however, before we get to that, gotta wrap things up from the Talladega Super Speedway. This race comes to a close with Kevin Linden getting that 48 machine in victory lane, and you talk about somebody playing spoiler. Linden, for the first time in his Full Throttle Cup Series career, goes to victory lane. We'll talk with him in a moment. Greg Evans, he'll move on with the 2nd place finish. Nelson Rivera, the other driver we'll talk to who comes home on the podium. We take a look at our LSRTV full race results. Sean Boundy with the 4th place result tonight, and Justin Jose Gonzalez, quiet for a lot of it, he ends up inside the top 5.
6th place goes to the number 87 of Christopher Herlow. The 7th position is going to go to the number 91 of Steve Gottschalk. Brian Harvey is going to finish 8th. Nicholas Cohan is going to finish 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is Scott Simley in the number 4 machine. He's going to finish 10th.
Jeff Ward going to finish 11th tonight. Anthony DeBarro in 12th position. Dan Murray in 13th. Jonathan Cannell in 14th. And Brennan Mercer in 15th.
16th is Nick Silver. The number 17th position is going to go to Eric Brundys, your defending series champion. 18th is going to go to Eric Arnold. Joey Gattina is going to finish 19th. And rounding out the top 20, Rich Jett, after an early issue, came back and was able to salvage a 20th place finish.
Brett McBride will finish in 21st. It's 22nd for Joseph LaPlaca, Douglas Wyatt, 23rd, Paul Fugate in 24th, and 25th position is EJ O'Rourke.
26 to the 49 of Jake Higgins. The 1 of Thomas George will finish 27th. 28th goes to the 13 of Dwayne Vincent. The 95 of Joe Dinsmore will finish 29th. And running out the top 30, the 42 of Scott Stenzel.
31st is going to go to Matt Lacrosse, 3 laps down. Corbin Hemstree is going to finish 32nd, not the way he wanted to return to the Full Throttle Cup Series tonight. He also finishes 3 laps down. Chad Cole is going to finish 33rd, 8 laps down. Tom Drilling is going to finish 34th, 10 laps down. And 35th, 18 laps down is Jimmy North.
It looks so good for David Comstock, a 36th place result. Gonna hurt him very much so at a points. 37th is Sean Kastovich. Rolo in 38th position. Same talk for the 996 machine. Behind him, 39th, John Abbott, the 10 machine involved in an incident earlier with Doug Roth. Those two drivers will come home in 39th and in as well 40th position. So 40th back of the pack, and that rounds out your field in the Talladega 226. Want to get post-race show going underway here. We got championship talk in just a moment, but first, down on the pit lane is Brian Macklin. And Brian, you've caught up with our third place finisher on the night. How about the driver number 7, 14th, the third? You're with Nelson Rivera.
Yes, I have caught up with Nelson Rivera, driver of that number 7 machine. And Nelson, you started in the 14th position. Of course, we had that long green flag run to start off the race. You worked your way to the front. You kind of hung around in the middle of the pack for most of the race. And when it counted most, you got a good finish out of this. What was it like going out there and having to deal with the tires actually playing a factor in the race tonight? We saw you guys really struggling with the handling on those cars the longer the run got.
Yeah, that's something I started noticing in practice earlier tonight. Especially off of turn 2, it's the first time I could say I probably ran a Talladega race where I had to lift in the corners. That's how bad it was pushing. Caught me off guard on that first pit stop, on that first yellow, and slid to my pit, and I actually contacted the inside of pit wall. Didn't really damage it much, but it just tells you how greasy the tires were, and it kind of caught me off guard. After that, I was just trying to conserve the tires, basically pick a lane and hope for the best.
And you did a good job rebounding from all of that to get a third place finish. And of course, all those cautions at the end didn't help your chances to win, but if that race had stayed green, did you have something to go up there and try to win this race tonight?
Well, in races like this, you never know. It's just, it's all about where you're positioned. If you're positioned in the right lane, if that lane moves, you hope you get in the lane and you hope it moves forward. And of course, you always have a chance of getting involved in someone else's big one, which happened there late. And luckily for me, we dodged that one and came home third.
Yeah, and real quick before we let you go, we'll give you an opportunity to give your sponsors a couple of shout-outs. Any friends and family at home you want to say hi to before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to thank my family for allowing me to do what I do. I love this stuff, It's a hobby of mine, and that's it. I want to just thank them.
All right, that is driver the number 7, Nelson Rivera, finishes in the 3rd position after a wild night here at the Talladega Superspeedway. Now we are going to move a little bit further down pit road, where I believe Justin Rosenau has caught up with one of our chase contenders, driver number 23, Greg Evans.
Driver the number 23, I Can't Design Chevrolet, Greg Evans from Steel Horse Racing. You finished second. I know it's not the result you were looking for. You were trying to clinch your way into the next round of the chase, the Eliminator 8, via victory. That was some wild finish there. Tell us about your perspective about the rear view.
It was a hell of a race. I thought once I finally got a run coming off of 4 there, I thought I had to go to the outside. I didn't want to just play it safe and make it in the chase. I really want to go for the win because I thought we had a good enough car and we had Dwayne behind us pushing us. So I thought we had a chance at it. And I'm not really sure what happened coming off 2. It looked like Hemstreet just hooked it right. Not really sure what happened there, but glad we got through and on to the next round of the chase. That's what their overall plan was, and just glad to be going on the next round.
Now, I don't know if this was a team decision or just your decision alone, Greg. Most of your Steel Horse counterparts were running towards the back of the pack to try to stay out of the big one tonight. Was it your call to be running up front all night long?
Yeah, everybody else in my team made the decision to go to the back, and I was kind of lone wolf, and I was like, guys, I'm gonna step here and just see what I can do up here. And we had some guys push us and help us out a little bit. I can't name them all, but my teammates, I feel like they kind of laid back a little too much, and I just really wanted to stay up front and just. I figured if we could stay in the top 10, we could probably miss the big wreck. And it just kind of worked out for us. And at the end of the race, my teammates were picking on me, but it worked out, and just glad to be moving on.
Now, Greg, I have to mention this to you. You are one of the 8 drivers that did move on to the Eliminator 8. Congratulations on that. What's the outlook in the next 3 races, knowing that you've taken a win at a 1.5-mile track so far this year? Do you have what it takes to lock yourself into the championship round going into Homestead?
I sure hope so. I feel like we've kind of got back in a rhythm again. Usually Martinsville's a pretty good race for us. But it's kind of like Talladega. There's a lot of beating and banging going on, and anything can really happen there. So we're really going to focus on trying to get a good qualifying there, and stay up front, just like the rest of the 3 races. If we can do that, I think we got a pretty good shot at it. A lot of the top guys that have won a bunch of races got knocked out tonight. So I think it's 8 drivers. 8 of us really got a good shot at it, so we'll see what happens.
Greg, you can't do it by yourself, man. Who makes it happen for you on the number 23?
I got I Can't Design, John Deere Tractors, Duct Tape, Sure Tape, PPG Industries, and I also got a shout out to all the women who've been battling breast cancer. We turned the car pink this week in memory of all of them. So if anybody has any friends or family that have been battling breast cancer, we're supporting you, and wish you the best of luck, and we're praying for you.
That's the driver who finished second, advances on to the Eliminator 8. That's Greg Evans driving the number 23, and on down to Gatorade Victory Lane. Evan Pasoka, you got an unexpected winner in Kevin Linden.
We talk about Talladega always being a wild card race, and for this chase, it definitely proved to be no less. But how about Kevin Linden in victory lane tonight with his first career RSR Full Throttle Cup Series win, and he's already celebrated it, and he's brought it down to the virtual Gatorade victory lane. We have caught up with him. Kevin, first off, a huge congratulations to you. A long time coming for the 48, but you finally got it, and you got a win on Monday night.
Yeah, it's been a long season, a long time coming. It's been hard to break through, and I can't believe we got it done tonight.
And this wasn't a Talladega race of any kind. It wasn't the earlier Talladega race. It wasn't a Daytona race in July. We're talking about the Talladega Chase race where you have the 11 drivers outside of Anthony DeBarro, best drivers in this series, absolutely giving it everything they had to win. It's probably the hardest race to win all season long. You get the job done, and it wasn't like you started up front and made it easy on yourself. 34th in practice, 27th in qualifying. How did you put that low Chevy up front and then keep it up front?
Yeah, practice wasn't very good. Qualifying was really bad, but kind of worked our way up through this pit cycle, and on the last stop, on the last caution, we came in for tires and took 2 left sides, and that's actually what gave us the track position to start second. I actually thought I'd beat Dwayne off the pit road, but it ended up lining up second next to him.
And you made that call with your teammate. You end up front, and then you maintain that front-running position. We saw earlier in this race, these guys were at each other's throats, 2, 3, 4 wide up at the front of the field. You were able to get up there, and this race ends under the caution flag, but you had to hold them off as well. It got interesting there at the end. What was going on in your head coming to that 5-lap-to-go restart?
Well, I knew with 5 to go, it was going to get pretty wild. And then the spotter was calling 3 wide, and I kind of thought on the last restart with Dwayne behind me, and he's running for the chase. I figured that he would stay behind, but he jumped out, and then it really seemed to like jumble things up, and I had to really control the draft to where they couldn't get a run kind of deal on me.
Well, you did so. You go on to win the Talladega 226 for the race number 3 in the Contender 12 round on the championship round number 28 in 2015. And with that, Kevin, a very strong run for you tonight. The question is, what does this win do for you as a team, and how can you carry this momentum forward, not only throughout the rest of 2015, but as well throughout your overall effort in this Full Throttle Cup Series?
Oh, this win here is a big booster because it's been a really rough season with caught up in a lot of wrecks, and so we'll go into Martinsville. We run really good at Martinsville, so we'll hope something maybe happen there, and then prepare for next season and make sure we make the chase.
Well, you showed the speed necessary to do so tonight, Kevin. You finished in the number 1 spot after leading 24 laps. You come home the victor tonight, and want to give you the opportunity to thank anybody, sponsors, shout-outs, who makes it happen for the 48 week in and week out, but most importantly, who made it possible for you to come out here tonight and pick up that win in one of the most difficult series on iRacing.
Oh, I want to shout out to my wife for letting me do this and putting up with all the noise. And shout out to my teammates on HP Motorsports and stuff. And a shout out to RSR for a great league and establishment they put on. And a shout out for you guys in the booth for it, because I watch all the broadcasts, and what a great job y'all do.
We certainly appreciated it. And Kevin, when you guys put on the action like we saw tonight, our job's a lot easier of just calling it like we see it. You're a winner now in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. For that, we congratulate you. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you when we go right back at it next week in Martinsville.
Yes, sir. We'll see you all in Martinsville. We'll get the car ready and head to Martinsville.
It is the Lowe's number 48 Chevrolet who wins tonight at Talladega. Justin, before we dive into the chase stuff, I know we're all waiting for it. We know Greg Evans is in. That's pretty much all we've told people for the most part. Kevin Linden's now a first-time winner in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Reaction to that?
Well, what can you say? You have one of the most loyal drivers in all the seasons of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, hanging in with some of the very best that iRacing.com has to offer as far as sim racers go, to finally get his first win in this series. It is a very tough task, considering a few of these drivers can and probably could go pro any day that they choose. And really, congratulations go out to the driver, that number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet of Kevin Linden. I couldn't be more happy for the guy, because it's one of the smaller teams, one of the smaller guys, doesn't have all the technology and info, really finding his way into victory lane tonight.
And now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. We know Anthony DeBarro advances into the round of 8 with his win for the last 2 weeks. He'll be the first driver into the Eliminator 8. Joining him will be Jeff Ward, who comes home just 17 points behind him, but a total of about 20 points or so above where that cut line was. Greg Evans is also going to advance. Dan Murray will advance. Dwayne Vincent, it pays to try to chug her on home. Vincent's going to come home in 5th. Eric Brundys comes home for 6th position. Christopher Hurlow, your 7th driver to advance, and from there on back, 3 different drivers separated by just 1 point to determine that final spot.
The final driver to make it in, and it will be on a tiebreaker via a second place finish at the Charlotte Motor Speedway in the first round of the Challenger round here in, the Contender round, of the Full Throttle Cup Series chase, will be the number 1 Snap-on Chevrolet of Thomas J. George. He will take that 8th and final transfer spot, and the guy on the outside looking in the 9th spot will be the number 36 Steel Horse Racing Godzilla Chevrolet of Rich Jet. 10th place goes to the number 11 of Jonathan Cadell, and via that late race incident, David Comstock, who has done very well in the Full Throttle Cup Series so far this year, on the outside looking in the 11th spot, and eliminated in the 12th spot, Mitch Rollo in that early race incident.
And Brian, we look at the plus minus. Rich Jet finishes exactly where he was into tonight. Jonathan Cadell finishes where he was. Mitch Rollo finishes where he was. So 3 out of the 4 drivers that are eliminated did not go above or below the cut line. But when you look at the numbers, that's not even close to the story. Jonathan Cadell, David Comstock, and Mitch Rollo are 3 drivers that you could easily put their name on that trophy, and Rich Jett has had one of the best seasons we've ever seen out of him. He has been so strong, but those guys just weren't able to get that run. And again, you go 27 races, and a plate track is what determines your fate, especially on a tiebreaker.
Yeah, the fact that it came down to a tiebreaker after this race is what's really amazing to me. That shows just how tight the competition is here in RSR. These guys are all wonderful drivers. They're all very competitive drivers. I've had the pleasure of racing with them. I ran earlier in the season against these guys, and they are all so competitive and so fast week in and week out, and you hate seeing anybody get eliminated. You don't like to see it. Unfortunately, with this format, that's how it works. You have to eliminate 4 drivers every 3 races till you get to the last 4 going into Homestead, and unfortunately, that's just how it works. And like you mentioned, all of those drivers easily we could be talking about as the champion when we leave Homestead here in a few weeks. But unfortunately, Talladega struck for those drivers, which is the uncertainty that all of them faced coming into this race. And that's why we preached at the beginning of this segment at Charlotte. You've got to win Charlotte. When we got to Kansas, we preached you've got to win Kansas. You don't want to have to think about it going into Talladega. Anthony DeBarro did that. He won both those races. He didn't have to think about it tonight. He had a little bit of damage. He didn't have a good run, but he didn't have to worry. He was locked in. There was nothing for him to be concerned about. But for the rest of these drivers, it was a very long night, and I hate to see it for any of those guys that did go home. And it's going to make the next 3 races really interesting because, again, all these guys are very competitive. Any of them could win the championship, and I can't wait to see who's going to be the Final 4.
And again, it's Rich Jett, Jonathan Cadell, David Comstock, and Mitch Rollo, the 4 drivers that will be eliminated. They will not advance to the Eliminator 8, the Contender 12 round, the final round that they make it to in this 2015 chase for their championship. And Justin, we said it going into that opening round that you need a win. You're going to need a win in all of these. We're going to go to Martinsville next week, and we're going to say you have to win. But every round that we go on, the importance escalates. You start with the first 3 races. There's 16 drivers. If anything, you can get by with some top 15s, top 20s to make it through. You come into this round, the stakes are up, as Brian said, because we're coming to Talladega. You had to win at Charlotte. You had to win at Kansas. Now, this has been the most difficult race so far, the most difficult round. Next round trumps that, though, because now we're down to 8 drivers. That means that there are 8 championship caliber drivers that if they win, doesn't mean anything because they're out of the chase now. The more you knock guys out, the more competition you have against yourself, the harder it is to win one of these things.
And remember, racers are like elephants. They have long memories. And coming into Martinsville, a place where chaos is known to happen in several visits to the NASCAR hauler, or the real sim racing hauler, if you will happen at the end of the race. I guarantee you, somebody in that top 8 is not going to be able to finish Martinsville and find themselves in a hole for Texas and Phoenix in the last couple of races in the Eliminator 8. And really, one thing you got to look at, each and every driver that did indeed make the chase, while they pretty much all but a couple of them, I do believe, have put themselves into victory lane going into the last couple of rounds here in the Full Throttle Cup Series. And Evan, it's just really, you can't say enough about each and every one of them 8 drivers, and it's gutting for Rich Jett, who finds himself all year long putting in his best year.
1 point.
Less than a point. It's a tiebreaker for 9.
That's 1 spot on the racetrack at Charlotte. That's 1 spot anywhere. He gets beat by the best finish at Charlotte. That's 3 races ago. That's how close this was.
Unreal, man. And Brian, I know that you're thinking the exact same thing. I mean, you can't say enough about the 8 drivers that advance, and really to have it come down to just 1 spot on a racetrack. I know Rich is really doing everything he can to keep himself calm, but that's a great effort to rebound from where he did. But if you're Rich Jett, you have to wonder what might have been.
Yeah, 1 spot on the racetrack, that will haunt these drivers for weeks. This is not something that he's going to go to Martinsville next week and think, whatever, I'm out of the chase. It's something that you're going to think about for weeks. 1 spot on the racetrack, that's it doesn't seem like you could even believe that because it's so surreal. But if he does anything differently here tonight, if he gets in a different line and moves 1 spot on the track here tonight, he's in the chase. If he makes a 2-tire strategy at Charlotte and finishes 1 spot higher than he did in that race, he's in the chase. I mean, so many things are going to go through his head. What could I have done differently? How could I have done things differently to advance to the next round? So I can't even begin to imagine. I've not been in this situation because I've not participated in this format of the chase, but I know what's got to be going through his mind. It's just absolutely surreal to think that it could come down and be that close after 3 races like that, but that's what racing is. And unfortunately for Rich Jet, a great season came to an end, but he's got a lot of positives. He won the season opener. He had a very strong season, and he could certainly do it again next year. So that's something he's got to look forward to and try to build on.
28 races down, and now just 4 races to go. Talladega now in the books, and as well, the round of 12 is past us. The Contender 12 has taken its victims. We move on to the Eliminator 8. With the drivers that advance, Anthony DeBarro, Jeff Ward, Greg Evans, Dan Murray, Dwayne Vincent, Eric Brundys, Christopher Hurlow, and Thomas J. George will continue their quest for a 2015 Full Throttle Cup Series Championship. Martinsville, the place to be. You're not going to want to miss it, and you're going to find us right here next Monday night. You could as well take a look on livesimracing.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/livesimracingtv. Find out information when you can find us on iRacing Live and much more. But Martinsville, the place to be. It'll be next Monday night. You're not going to want to miss it right here on LSRTV. Until next time, do want to thank all of the people that go into making this possible. For all of the sponsors and partners with Real Sim Racing, Garry, Mercer, Truck at iRacing.com, Inside Sim Racing TV, Disabled Racers, Derek Spear Designs, and Race Chaser Online. For more information, you can go to RealSimRacing.com. Stay up to date with everything there. As well, if you want to sign up, RSR Icebreaker Winter Series coming back on Mondays. The RSR Outlaw Truck Series returns on Wednesdays this November for another winter of virtual stock car racing. Real Sim Racing, again, the place to be. Go to register today and get on track this off-season live with LSRTV and iRacing Live. You can stay up to date with LSRTV with our post-race recaps, news, other press. That can be viewed through our partners at RaceChaserOnline.com or at iRacing News. That's iRacing.com/iRacing News. Again, it's the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series Martinsville 200 presented by Garry Mercer Trucking. It's race number 1 of 3 in the Eliminator 8. It's going to be Monday, November the 2nd at 9:30 Eastern. LSRTV, the place to be. Until next time, on behalf of the entire LSRTV team and for the broadcast crew tonight, for myself, Evan Pasocco, Justin Rosenell, Brian Macklin, our pit lane reporter, Cisco Scaramuza, and our executive producer, Laura Lawson, we thank you so much for tuning in, and a big congratulations, Kevin Linden is a first-time winner in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and as well, a huge congratulations to your 8 drivers that advance. We will see you next Monday night when we go Eliminator 8 Racing. You've been watching a presentation of RSR Full Throttle Cup Series on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Good night.